Come on. Yes, good morning. Welcome back to The Only Way Is whatever we want it to be, where we don't actually ever have The Only Way Is in the title. But here we are. Look who I'm joined by. I'm joined by Kuva. I'm joined by the Calf. And guys, it's been such a shit week. We're going to have a bit of a laugh today. Who's up for a little bit of a laugh? Anyone?
Yeah. We're always here. Etchy.
Now, before we have a bit of a laugh, Ben had to bring the tone down earlier by telling us that there was some corporate news coming out of the world of Tottenham Hotspur. Ben, would you like to break the news to all of the people watching the show right now? The great news to lift their spirits for the day.
To the dismay of everyone in the chat, Spurs have announced that we have a brand new VPN sponsorship, which is ExpressVPN. So 3-0 for anyone that watches Uncle Roger, because he's also sponsored by ExpressVPN. So get your ExpressVPN packaging now. It's probably costs, I don't know how much a month, but it's pretty good apparently.
So how much are they sponsoring you?
Oh, I don't know. I wish they would. I could do with the money.
Absolutely.
Spurs don't need the money. I need the money.
Didn't we also have a nice little article from Paul O'Keefe about how the club's trimming the wages now to instead of concentrating on football, trim the wages so we're better prospect for investment. That's what you want to hear with your football club, isn't it?
I tell you what,
Tottenham Hotspur do not defend against goals, but we do defend against hackers using your ExpressVPN, and you can watch whatever content you want wherever you want. If you wish to watch BBC iPlayer in America, you can do so. If you want to watch it anywhere,
aren't we turning into macro? We're turning into macro. Like, I feel like if I want some paint, I'm going down to Spurs. If I want some Korean furniture, I can go and get that there. There's some nice menswear. I can bit of Formula One, some beer, some fish and chips.
If I'm running out of salt, I'll go there on a match day.
Yes.
This club, we've got to laugh, right? You've got to laugh after this many years. I'm going to start
I think the VPN bit's a good idea, though, because after losing to the bottom three teams, you can pretend you're in a different country.
Yes. I like it.
Well, listen, I'm going to say, right, I just want to start off. I've got to start off because I've got to get this off my chest. I feel like I need to vent. After being told last night by a 21-year-old on my show that I'm negative, that I'm pessimistic. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm pessimistic, but then when I asked him what I'm pessimistic about, he said, no, but you're always right about Spurs. Okay. Only to then hear that Rodrigo Bentancur is better at the ball with the ball at his feet than Rodri, which I thought was a good one. And then Kuva catching strays. Kuva sitting at home, probably playing video games with his kids, eating some turkey dinosaurs or whatever they eat. And then suddenly, they're good food, right? Turkey dinosaurs.
I love a turkey dinosaur.
Then from nowhere, shots fired. You and Kuva. Me. And where's it's really hard to do that backwards. Me and this guy. Yeah, you guys are negative. You overrate other players. Then when I asked him, which players do I overrate? He comes up with Virgil van Dijk and Cole Palmer. Like I was over-egging Matty Cash. Or do you know what I mean? Like I was over-egging Pinnock of Brentford. Or sorry, just to Kuva, would you like to respond in a party political broadcast style manner?
I don't really need to, do I? I mean, what you did was pull up the greatest stats there were. You look at Cole Palmer over the last season and a third.
45 GA.
He's got the kind of figures Cristiano Ronaldo had in his final season with Man United. It's absolutely outstanding.
Don't overhype.
Cristiano Ronaldo, what a load of rubbish. We got Richarlison.
Yeah.
it makes me laugh.
Richarlison is nowhere near as good in an Argentina shirt as a Jean-Claude Van Damme.
How can someone like me possibly rate great footballers over what we have? Because if they've got a Spurs shirt on, they're the greatest in the world. Oh, dear.
Well, Yun, it's brilliant that you just said this because...
Wait, I'll just finish off that bit. It's almost as if you support Spurs, you're not allowed to appreciate any other player on earth.
No, everyone else is crap but our players.
Yeah. Why would you want Virgil van Dijk when I've got Romero and Van der Ven? Like, levels, right? There's levels to football. It's like saying, it's like, it's like someone saying to me now, oh, you overrate Berbatov. Be grateful of Solanke. Do you know what I mean? It's like
I got pelters the other day. I was on the We Are Tottenham TV watch along. Big up to those boys over there. A massive pleasure to appear on that watch along versus Galatasaray.
Yeah,
and then I had the entire comment section of the video saying this game don't mean anything. It's a dead rubber game. We're saving our team for the weekend because it's more important to finish higher in the league than it is to win a European trophy.
Mental.
Then we lose to fucking Ipswich. Sorry, Savva. We lose to Ipswich. So
funny how they
thank you for all the money.
It's a nothing game, but they all tune in to watch.
We threw the game against Galatasaray so we could lose against Ipswich. We played an 18-year-old central midfielder who plays at right back sometimes against Victor Osimhen, one of the fastest strikers in Europe.
Well,
so we could lose to Ipswich.
Look, let's. I know. This is what I love. And by the way, I'm seeing. I've got to read. I'm not going to say who, but I've got to read this post out. Someone put this today on X. It's been sent to me. I might as well be on X. The amount of posts I get sent from that bloody platform.
Yeah.
Here, where is it? This is absolutely brilliant, right? Tell me you don't understand football without telling me you don't understand football. Somebody on X said sacking Ange will be way worse than sacking the previous managers. That in its own is a stupid comment. Literally, no defeat this season was with more than one goal margin, and none of this was for tactical reasons. Okay,
shut up.
We're improving. The results are not, but they will come. I love this. We're improving, but the thing you use to measure improvement is not. Sacking Ange will be literally the dumbest thing this club has ever done, and that tells you a lot about it. The Tottenham fan base, ladies and gentlemen, in one X account. Like, don't worry, we're only losing games by one goal. Just keep losing. Just keep losing. Sorry,
I've got a stat for you. Tottenham Hotspur lost 12 games last year in the Premier League. We're already at 5, and we haven't even got to December yet. If we lose 2 games before January, we've lost more than half the games we've lost all season last year.
Mate, it's absolutely madness.
I particularly like the part the results will come. Based on what? Weren't we saying that last season?
But again, I'm going to call it out. I'm seeing bigger channels. I know you're friends with them, but I watch We Are Tottenham TV. I like Ben and Sim, but I watch excerpts of their channel and I think, have they just watched what I've watched? Like the positive spin on losing at home to Ipswich followed, that preceded Galatasaray. Everyone, it's not about those two, by the way. Loads of people are doing it.
There's so many people. This
is the mindset of our fan base. We lose to Galatasaray. It's a free hit. Okay. We saved our best for 11 for Ipswich. Okay. We lose to Ipswich. Yeah, but we only lost by 1 goal. What are we doing here? Look at Man City, a team that have won everything in world football for the last 8 years. Yeah. 8, 9, 10 years, whatever they've been. Their fans have got the best manager in world football. They're having debates about whether or not Pep should be sacked, which is insane. But that's the levels of...
I hope Pep is sacked and we sack Ange and we get Pep Guardiola.
Sure,
that's my dream scenario. Just get Pep Guardiola
That's the levels of our other clubs are like. Arsenal fans now are, oh my God, look how far we've fallen off the top.
Yeah.
Got to act now, stack the manager, get in a proper manager. Spurs fans, we're only losing by 1 goal. And again, that's seeped down from, and this will lead nicely into what we were actually here to do, chairman to managers to players. It's seeped down to everyone. Cam, this isn't an exact science, is it? This isn't an exact science. We've got to stop with... Anyway...
It's also lowest wage to turnover ratio in the Premier League.
So I'm going to ask you boys a question before we start, right? Off of Cam's opinion, right? If we look at this league table, are you telling me that Villa, Newcastle, Fulham, Brighton and Forest all pay better wages than Tottenham Hotspur?
No.
Right. You can't go by... We're 7th in the wage table. We must finish 7th. That doesn't work because these are the same fans that will tell you we're brilliant. We're going to win every game. They just pick and choose. Guys, should we? We've been called the triplets of negativity in the chat.
I love it.
Laugh. But guys, we've got a theme tune that goes with it. Should we show everybody at home the theme tune? And I can show this a couple of times during the show because this is the triplets of negativity, ladies and gentlemen. Love it. Absolutely love it. There we are, the triplets of negativity, ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls. Let's have a look. We're here to talk about managers. We're not going to spend a massive amount of time on all of them. Guys and girls, do you know how many permanent managers Tottenham Hotspur have had in the Premier League era? Permanent managers.
I think it's 14. 14, isn't it?
Is Ange the 15th? No, 14 sounds about right.
Because I think it's 18 in total, but I think it's 14.
17 is the answer. You failed your first part of the quiz. You failed your first part of the quiz. The second part of the quiz. Can you tell me the first ever Spurs manager to win a trophy for Tottenham Hotspur? The first ever manager. What was his name?
You mean under Enoch?
I mean, ever. Who was the first ever manager to win a trophy?
I mean, Kuva should know this.
I mean, he wasn't quite born, but you won't get.
No, I can't remember the name. I'd have to look it up.
The manager was John Cameron, and that was in 1899. 1899. And he was the first manager to win the FA Cup for us in 1901. Can you name me the last English manager to win us a trophy? The last English manager to win us a trophy?
Terry Venables.
It was Terry Venables. Yeah, getting your nationalities mixed up there, old Ben.
George Graham isn't English. What?
George Graham is not English, mate.
He's a Scot, isn't he?
Oh.
He's a Scot. He's a Scot. And can you name the last manager to win a European trophy for Tottenham Hotspur?
Keith Birkinshaw.
Yeah, Keith Birkinshaw.
It was Keith Birkinshaw. Just a nice little quiz to get us in the mood. Guys, we're going to spend 5 minutes on each one of these managers. Going down memory lane. Some of them, Ben, I'm guessing you might be a tad too young. That's a compliment, by the way. Kuva, you will definitely remember them all because I remember them all. And we've got a nice little visual picture of all of them for you as well, because who doesn't like
as opposed to an audible picture?
Yes.
Wow. We're doing that,
it's the triplets of Terror theme song.
Consistency, mate.
Consistency.
We're going to... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We're going to fire shots. All right, Kuva, you've just made an enemy out of me. That doesn't mean anything.
Much, does it? No.
That doesn't mean anything. I just don't care. By the way, guys and girls, just to let you know, at the end of the show, I'm going to give you some details as to how to sign up to Big Up. I've agreed a partnership with Big Up, who are another streaming platform, to do some watch-alongs for England games, for Champions League games and Premier League games, anything that's not Tottenham, just some watch-alongs. So if you guys would all follow me there and subscribe, and that, it would really help me in my
quest
endeavors, quest. Yeah, I was going to say career. That sounds really wanky, doesn't it? In my career, it really helps me.
To be fair, I think you do a pretty decent watch along.
I think I like to get involved in it. Guys and girls, here's a little question. Not for you two. You know this. Anyone in the chat? Who was the first manager? Not for you two. Who was the first manager that managed Spurs in the Premier League era? The first manager. I truly expect some of you to get this. It was 32 years ago. 1992, August is the date. Who was that manager that took us into our first Premier League season? Come on, people. We can't all be 18 and 20. Surely there's some people out there. Doesn't look like we're going to get an answer. So I'm going to show you. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Doug Livermore. Doug Livermore with a wonderful Spurs Umbro tracksuit.
Look at that hair.
Look at the hair. Look at the teeth. Look at the smile. Big Doug Livermore took over from took over at Tottenham in 1992. And was Tottenham manager for one season. Just to let you know, before we start talking about Doug Livermore managed 50 games exactly in the league, right? 50 games exactly. And 1.60 was his win percentage. 1.60 was his points per game. Kuva, I'll start with you. I'm guessing Ben's probably not got a huge recollection.
No.
Doug Livermore.
I wasn't born, mate.
Doug Livermore, Kuva. What do you remember about Doug Livermore?
Doug Livermore, good bloke. Totally Tottenham, but he had the impression he was the caretaker manager in previous seasons whenever we were going between managers, and he just got given it for a full season because we're obviously seem to be taking our time on who our next appointment would be. So it was like nothing special, but he kept the club afloat. And we'd just gone through a period where, you know, at that point, I think, Gaza had gone at that point, or he was still injured at that point. Lineker had gone. The team had basically slumped from being the FA Cup team with a couple of major players that got us through it to a period where it wasn't so easy. I think then the likes of the more workmanlike players like Paul Allen came to the front. Good player, Paul Allen, one of my favourites, but you can't compare him to like a Gascoigne or a Waddle or a player like that. We had a bit of a transitional phase. It was difficult times, definitely. But sometimes you just need a good, honest, solid bloke there just to steady the boat and get you through it.
That was during the era when Terry Venables and Alan Sugar were arguing over who owned the football club, because in Terry Venables' mind, he owned 50% of the football club, and he was going to be made like the not like the chairman, but he was going to be made the director of football, and he was going to be in control of all footballing matters. And Alan Sugar was like, "No, I own this football club. I do what I want." Whilst Alan Sugar was desperately trying to sell skyboxes, because that's the reason he bought the football club, was to sell skyboxes and computers. So that's why Terry Venables got sacked, because Alan Sugar and him had a colossal falling out over who owned the football club.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because Venables had stepped up to above management, hadn't he?
That's what he wanted. He stepped up above management, but then he thought he was going to be the chairman.
Yeah.
Well, look, let me ask you, at the end of talking about every manager, I'm going to ask you to give them a rating out of 10. And then we're going to put that rating next to them. Doug Livermore, it was a difficult year. The club was in a bit of a mess. We didn't have the greatest squad, as you said. I think we just lost Lineker and the likes. Did we have Lineker? No, we didn't have Lineker, did we? We'd lost Lineker. We'd lost Gaza. Out of 10, Kuva, I mean, with context provided
and consistency.
With context, for me, I'm going to say 6 out of 10. He kept us steady there. We did nothing special, but we just needed somebody to just grab what was left of a sort of sinking ship. We get without a rudder at the time, and just keep us level. Sometimes you just got to hang on to what you've got. Sometimes you just can't move forward at that point, and it's about holding your ground, and that's all he did. So nothing special, but I appreciate his efforts, even if it's nothing spectacular.
Can you believe I just picked up a pad to write this down, and the one pad I picked up, every page is chock-a-block. So a 6. Would we be happy giving Doug Livermore a 6 for all the kind of issues that there would have probably been?
Yeah, 5, 6. It's basically average. Average.
Okay. So should we do that instead? Let's give them a word that we all agree on. Average.
Well, you can give him a 5 because that 5 is average.
Okay, what are we doing? 5 or 6? The word average. You've got to be
okay. We'll go for a 5 then. I'm happy with that. If we go that, that as an average, yeah.
Doug Livermore gets a 5. There you go. It's proof because it's written down now. Anything that's written down is proof, isn't it? In my book. Right. Here we go. The next manager. We should all know the next manager. Let me know in the chat. Lots of people, have gone with Livermore with a 6, with a 5, with a 5. We did get Sheringham not long after, though. Talking of Teddy Sheringham, let's have a look. The next manager, you know who it is. I know who it is. We managed to go and get a World Cup winner. And no, it wasn't Christian Romero. Believe it or not, we've had other World Cup winners that have played for Tottenham Hotspur. And it's this man. Look, there he is. Just so you all know, that gold shiny thing, that's a trophy. That's a 6-letter word that basically means success. Just to let Spurs fans know what that is. Guys, Ossie Ardiles came into Tottenham. Ossie Ardiles was he came in 1993. He lasted a year, right? He had 500 days as manager, 63 games. Do you want to know what his points per game was?
No. It ruins the memory of it.
It does, but we're going to do it anyway. Ossie Ardiles was 1.16 in terms of points per game. Would it be fair to say, guys, Ossie Ardiles was absolutely superb going forward, loved it, had zero inclination to sort out our back four, and it was brilliant for patches, but when you look back and look at the actual results, we were a bit of a shambles, weren't we, under Ossie? What do you guys remember?
Well, again, I wasn't born, Savva, so I can't really say anything. But
we'll get there. We'll get to the years. We'll get there.
We'll get there. But for me, I think all football teams should be like this. If in a world where every team is like this, our current setup would be half decent. 5 up front, 2 at the back. It reminds me of now. It's wonderful, isn't it? It reminds me of now. All show, no go is what we're saying. All show, no go. But my God, did we have some brilliant forwards?
I mean, Kuva. I mean, Ossie Ardiles was Barmby, Sheringham, Anderton, Klinsmann, Jurgen Klinsmann,
Dumitrescu,
Popescu, and then at the back,
what a player! Oh my God!
Class.
Yeah. People talk about Ange being gung ho. No way. Get that weak shit out of here. It's Ossie Ardiles. Now that's gung ho, and it was fantastic when he breezed in. One of the most popular players we've ever had. Absolutely love him. My mum's favourite player of all time, by the way. And it was happy times. We saw Jurgen Klinsmann signing for the club, and that was like oh my God, I remember where I was when I heard that. I remember the piece of paper in my hand in the office and my jaw dropping. Are you winding me up? We've signed Jurgen Klinsmann. No, we haven't. You're pulling my leg. Yes, we have. Look. Oh, joyous days. And then the debut for Klinsmann and that 4-3 win against Sheffield Wednesday. And it was a feeling of, we're going to score 200 goals and let in 100 this season. It's going to be amazing. And it started off fun. It really did. I remember the second game was against Man United, if I remember rightly. And we only drew it 1-1. but it felt like we had pebble dashed their goal and we should have scored about 40 goals. It was still fun. And then it just kind of fell off a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
The people had sussed us out a bit. Dumitrescu didn't look quite the amazing winger he was. He looked a bit one-dimensional. And people had just got used to the fact that we were all about the attack and couldn't defend. So they bided their time. It's a bit of a familiar story, that one, really. It's a dress rehearsal for now.
I think it goes to show, doesn't it? Look, I mean, Ossie, you summed it up. Ossie Ardiles, for me, is always going to be a club legend because what a footballer. Like, he was absolutely sublime as a footballer. As a manager, I think it goes to show that that kind of, oh, this is fun mentality is good. But if you want to go to the next level, you do have to have some balance, and we really didn't. But some of the players we had underneath him, it was great. It was exciting. And imagine that forward line had a proper back four behind them. We could have been brilliant, but we weren't. Ossie Ardiles out of 10 guys, bearing in mind we gave Doug Livermore a 5. What are we going with Ossie?
I'm going to put my fingers in my ears and say 10 out of 10. I can't hear a bad thing said about it.
It's the way football should be, isn't it, Kuva?
Yeah,
7-3 every week.
Absolutely.
7-3 every week.
I think the club let him down by not signing the defenders to make it happen.
Let's blame the club as always.
That's right. That's right.
Would it be fair to say 10 for attacking, 0 for defending? Maybe we meet in the middle and go for another 5?
Zero for defending is maybe a bit generous.
Yeah, exactly. So, hang on, let's add that banner. Yeah, please.
Let's go 5.
So Ossie Ardiles a 5. Right, guys. After that, Ossie Ardiles. I'm not adding.
No, come on. To be fair, we are actually judging on how good they were, and you've got to say he did not have a good period of time at the club, did he? So it's probably got to go lower, but it depends if you're judging on success or likability and enjoyment factor, because they're different on this character, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, it kind of rings true to today, and not on the same level, but it's why when people just go, "Oh, we're just going to do it this way. Don't worry about anyone else." That's fine, but it's just not how football works. You've got, if you want to win things, you've got to be able to defend. No one's winning leagues and that when they can't defend. Just so you know, we're not doing all of the interim managers. We're not doing all of the caretakers because we've had loads.
We've been here for about 10 years.
So after that, now this is where things get exciting for Kuva. After that, Spurs brought in the man, the myth, the legend. He had the best hair of any manager there's ever been in any football club in the world. Sir Gerry Francis. He's not a sir, but Sir Gerry Francis.
He should be.
By the way, was a magnificent player. Was a magnificent footballer. Yeah. Came to Spurs. Now, Gerry, unlike the others guys, do you know how long Gerry was at Spurs for?
4 years, something like that.
He was at Spurs for 3 years. The November to the November, 94 to 97. And Gerry Francis. Oh, hang on. Is my dog going? No, dog. Hey, shush. Gerry Francis had 1,100 days as manager. Oh, God, there is someone at my door. I'll be back. Talk about Gerry Francis.
We love Gerry Francis, don't we, Coves?
No.
We love him. He had the greatest hair on the history of planet Earth.
That he did. He learned that from Hoddle and Waddle, though, didn't he?
This party political broadcast is from the people that like mullets. Mullets need to come back because they're just wonderful, aren't they?
I had a mullet back in the day for sure.
They're not just a style icon. They're great for country music, and Billy Ray Cyrus has one. So,
and if a mullet was good enough for Glenn Hoddle when he was playing, it was good enough for me at the time as a teenager.
Absolutely. And if it's good enough for Billy Ray Cyrus, it's good enough for football.
Sorry about that. That's 2 parcels in 10 minutes, and neither of them were for Richard. Can you believe? But on my travels, I did find some chocolate digestive biscuits. So, swings and roundabouts. They weren't just lying about on the stairs or anything. It wasn't like there was just...
Wait a minute. Can you hold them up again?
Why? Go on, I know what you're
Packet
going
of
to say.
biscuits that hasn't been finished. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Because they're hers, not mine. She started
yeah,
eating these last night. I would have eaten, but
You're in trouble.
She saved 3 to say, "Oh, see, I do have willpower." Saved 3. Anyway, as you were right, so Gerry Francis, in his time at Spurs, managed to, for 1,100 days, exactly, 136 games, and his win rate goes up to 1.36. I don't know about you. I remember some good times under Gerry Francis. I remember there being one spell, Kuva. I know you don't like him, but there was definitely one spell where we were like 16 unbeaten or something, or we put a really good run together. And then I just remember it just collapsing magnificently. Would that be fair? Do you remember that? Am I making this up?
Well, for me, I look at the overall picture. Gerry Francis was fortunate enough to inherit a great strike force, absolutely stunningly good. As we just talked about, Sheringham and Klinsmann up front for a start.
Yeah.
And he walked into that, and all he did was basically realise that we were too fragile at the back, and he put David Howells in as basically a defensive midfielder. And it did steady things up a bit. So fair enough there. But like I said, you look at over the course of time, we didn't really achieve anything. And we started signing players that were workmanlike and had no talent. Andy Sinton, I'm thinking of straight away.
Oh, where is he?
Another one you say is my favourite player because he's the complete opposite.
How dare you, Kuva? I'm better than Neymar. Why do you disrespect our players? Why do you disrespect our players?
How do you possibly manage to get Andy Sinton into every conversation?
Because he was there at the time. He was a Gerry Francis signing, wasn't he?
So in Gerry Francis' 2 full seasons, we finished 7th and 8th, and we managed to finish runner-up in the FA, semi-finalist, of the FA Cup.
Right, here's the bit though. This is what I'm saying. You look at his full reign, not just when he took over, and it went quite well for a little while because he had that brilliant strike force.
Yeah.
But eventually, we started replacing those really good players with absolute journeyman plodders.
Yeah.
And you ended up with a workman-like team. And I remember Teddy Sheringham summed it up when he said, after leaving Spurs, you would get the team talk from the manager, and it was all about, we're playing QPR. This is how we're going to stop them playing. It's like QPR. We have to worry about how they're playing. They should be worrying about us. We're talking about a manager that's defensive against teams that we should be absolutely steamrolling. It was the football turned absolutely diabolically bad to watch.
Yep.
Boring football. Trying to grind. It looked like we were setting up to try and win 1-0. It was absolutely. I couldn't stand it. So going from all the excitement of Ossie, you went to the boredom of Francis. That's why I don't like him.
Give me an out of 10. We'll go with Ben, if you're happy. We'll go with Kuva's saying on this because he's very passionate about Gerry Francis.
I don't argue with matters like this, except for about Kit Kats being chocolate bars.
Yeah. Kuva out of 10?
Disgrace.
Well, he wasn't a disaster, was he? He was just dull and boring. For me, he's a.
Is that some praise? Is that some praise for Gerry Francis? He wasn't a disaster.
Boring and bland isn't good, is it? I don't watch football for that. So
give me a number. Get your
Jeeves and I played a game back in it was like 2 months ago, but I'm calling it back in the day now because it feels so long ago now because of how crap we are at the moment. We played a game called Beige Footballers, and we had to continuously name beige footballers. Gerry Francis is the equivalent of a beige footballer as a beige manager. Just boring, turgid, just awful.
Well, I need an out of 10 so we can move this on.
If we're giving Livermore 5, then I'm going to have to give Francis 5 as well, to be fair.
Right. Yeah. So far, out of 30, our managers have got up to 15 between them. Brilliant. Okay. So, hang on. Add banner. Yeah, there we go. France 5. So, after Gerry Francis, guys go, by the way, did I show the picture of Gerry Francis? I didn't.
No, you didn't.
There he is.
What a haircut.
And I don't know whether that's the name of the kit or the title of his ability on his upper right breast. But after that, now we get to some good times. Now we get to some great times. It's never dull being Spurs. And this man rocked up. This man, the myth, the man with who remembers they used to do these? Used to have a travel card. Are you ready?
I don't have a travel card, but I've got the Blue Eyes White Dragon, so I'm waving that
this
about.
Man who was dressed like, I mean, this coat just looks like he was like an accountant or something. I don't know. He just, he turned up. He was so happy to be here. We'd plucked him from nowhere. Christian Gross turned up. And if we actually look at what Christian Gross did, we're going to go to, hang on, where is Christian Gross on this list? Hang on, he's not as low down as you think. Christian Gross managed for 285 days, 30 games with a win rate of 1.27, and he was at the club between 1997 and 1998. And someone decided that David Ginola was so brilliant, he needs a manager like Christian Gross to bring out his abilities. Christian Gross, ladies and gentlemen, with his travel card.
I can do that one. When we signed him, I think myself and I think most of us, if we're honest, looked at it and said, "Who?" And then we had to look up where they come from. What was Grasshoppers? Was it someone like that we signed him from? And you know, then in their league, presumably they had a good record. I couldn't even be bothered to look it up after he left. But he turned up, and as I said, we were thinking who. After he came to the end of his stint at Tottenham, I was still thinking who. It just did nothing. It was like it was like you had a sort of bit of polyfiller in there where the manager should have been. There was just
bit of polyfiller.
There was no character to it, anything about it. His interviews were boring. The football was, I can't even say meh. It wasn't interesting enough to be boring. It was just, I don't know what happened. Really
weird. It was a stagnant period at Tottenham, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's too much that needs to be said. But again, he was kind of like, I don't know if you obviously you remember these days, Kuva, but this was one of the first people I can remember, not because he's Spurs, but one of the first media type managers. And what I mean by that was they made a big thing about, hey, look how down to earth this guy is. He came in on a London travel card. And, you know, but back then it used to just be a picture behind a desk signing a contract. It's not all the videos you see now when a player and a manager signs on social media. But back then they made this great big thing about following him down the underground. And but then it was a nothing. It was a nothing time, wasn't it? It was a really bad time. And when we actually look where we finished in that year, I mean, he didn't do a whole year, but we were 14th. So 14th in the Premier League.
Yeah, but we were worth our place there.
We were good. Yeah. We were good. We were the best of the rest. If the rest are the bottom seven.
That was it. He was one of. He's got a ticket, so he's one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Kroos was happy to be here, though. He was getting paid loads for a dream job.
Yeah. He actually had a good career after he left Spurs, didn't he? He went to a few, he managed Schalke, I think, at one. He managed some. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at Christian Gross'
I've got it up here. I'm also going to check Christian Gross. Christian Gross, yes, in his managerial career, he has won multiple things with Grasshopper, multiple things with Basel. He's won things with Zamalek, with Al Ali. He was a Swiss Super League Coach of the Year about 10 times.
So what you're saying is a win now manager?
Yeah, Spurs are probably the only club he didn't win at. We're
going to compare him to Mourinho then?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Swiss version of Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, the the Swiss league, the powerhouse of European football that it's seen over the years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we are so much fun as no one can look back at this club and say it's boring. Like we have some really good times. Even when they're bad, they're funny, right? Guys, what we're gonna get, we'll get more interesting when we get to managers where there's a lot of fresher memories. But Christian Gross, I mean, it's got to be lower than. Has it got to be lower, or what are we gonna do here?
It's
got to be a 4.
I'm not sure we give him a rating.
You've got to.
Don't you have to be a manager to get a rating on this list? 3.
A 3? Ben, what are you saying? You said a 4.
3. I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go with Kuva. 3. Right. 3 out of 10.
Christian Gross will get a 3. Sorry, Christian. We tried, Christian. I tried to get you a 4 and I couldn't. Guys and girls, I mean, listen, Joey Barton is right. It's a bloke nearly got us relegated. Yeah. I'll tell you what, this Spurs team could do with a Joey Barton in midfield, couldn't he? Kicking a few people, having a go at teammates and stuff.
No,
yeah. I'd love it. Poking a few players in the eyes.
Biting people or whatever. Bringing a shotgun or something, yeah.
I could just picture Joe Barton playing now, running to the sideline, lighting up a cigar, running on and going, Brennan Johnson, track back, right in his face. Do you know what I mean? Like, go on, Joey Barton.
Whilst complaining about that, he's got no earrings.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, no one, by the way, talking about Joey Barton, when he did that interview in France, have you seen it?
I've heard about it.
Yes, we want to win. You're like, Joey, what are you doing?
Why are you speaking? Was it whose was worse, his or Steve McLaren? Steve McLaren doing Dutch.
Oh,
yes, I think we should win some football matches. Yes. I've got my hair gel on.
It was like he was on, like when Hale and Pace and people like that would do their sketch shows. And like Harry Enfield, it was like that, just doing a we are Dutch.
Yes, I'm the manager of SC20. Steve.
We're going to come to a Dutch bloke very soon, but not yet, because after Gross, guys, I don't want to get you too excited, but I'm going to. So sit down, calm down, everyone in the chat. This is one of only 2 managers to win a trophy for Spurs in the Premier League era. Yeah. Right? And if that doesn't deserve this, I don't know what does. I just love that. I like the way Ben as the woman just going up and down like this. It's just absolutely brilliant.
I had a lot of fun last night with Pinata Farms. There were some even better ones that we can't show on screen. Because...
Just so everyone knows, when Ben first sent that video to me, Kuva and Ben weren't in it. It was me as Peter Griffin, and the other 2, one said context and the other one said consistency. Right, guys, we brought in whatever people want to say about him. We did. We brought in a top manager. We did. We can hate him. We can hate his background. We brought in a top manager. We brought in the man, the myth, the legend that is this guy, George Graham.
Look at that overcoat.
A great overcoat, great tie, great shirt. There's just a lot going on.
Hang on. There's something that you didn't spot earlier. Can you bring it up again? You talk about Gerry Francis haircut and everything. George Graham there is rocking 2 different haircuts.
Yes. he's rocking the grandpa haircut.
Who is behind him? There's a question. Who is that player behind him? Could we name it? Everyone in the chat.
Anderson,
who is that
behind Anderson, him? Isn't it?
I think so. I think it's I want to say Anderton.
I can tell from the hair.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right.
Now, guys, George Graham joined and is never going to get the praise he should because of 2 things for me. The obvious, the Arsenal links. The obvious, it didn't matter what he did. He could win every game of the season. People didn't get on board with him because he's Arsenal. For me, that isn't the reason that I fell out with George. Not personally. I don't know him. I fell out with George in my head. He doesn't know who I am. because of his treatment of a certain Mr. David Ginola, right? But let's have a look at some facts, shall we? So,
let's break it down.
Where are we? Break this down. Where's all my... Right. So George Graham came in 1998 and left the club in 2001. During that time, hang on, I've got loads of stats here. During that time, where's George? Come on, George. No, he's not near the bottom. Good. Okay. All right, George, where are you? George actually did well. 897 days as manager. And he saw us into the new millennium. 124 games and 1.46 points per game. But before people start wondering about all those points per games are crap compared to nowadays, you've got to remember the squad that these managers had was horrific. So George had... This was a peak time to be a Spurs fan.
Brace yourselves listening to this.
This is peak time to be a Spurs fan.
In goal.
Well, I was going to go with the positives, but one is a positive, which is also a negative. He had Sol Campbell at the back, and Ginola on the wing, right? So he had one of the best players in the league at the back, one of the best players in the league on the wing, and then the other 9 around it
were awful.
There was some good. There was the Darren Andertons, and then I think a lot of. Would it be fair to say a lot of journeymen, a lot of Alan Nilssons, Stefan Eversons, Justin Edinburgh was in there, was a decent player. Ramon Vega was in there. It was mediocre times. But Kuva, I'll start with you. He won the League Cup. It was a really good cup run. I remember going to the semi-final down at Wimbledon in the second leg. I remember that. And he won a trophy. Whatever we want to say, this man is there because he won a trophy, in my opinion. Success.
Yeah, it was a weird one, wasn't he? Because when he turned up, the same as most fans, I was mortified. And I just thought, that's it, I'm done with this club. We can't have this. This was Mr. Arsenal 1-0 win. That's what we knew him for. Boring, turgid football, but it would grind out success. And we got the complete opposite at our club with him. Our league form was terrible. It was really bad. But he did turn us around again into a cup team. We won the cup, won the League Cup, and there was a belief then that every time we went into cup tournaments, we had a chance of winning. He gave us that. And I don't forget that. I can take my Spurs hat off when looking at him as a manager and just say he actually did something positive for our team. There was something about the club at that point where the fun had come back because we knew we were going to go deep into cup competitions, had a chance of winning it, and silverware is fun. I hated that particular cup final. I remember almost nothing about the football because it was so awful. Terrible. But
this was a manager though, Coos. They should have given time because in 2 years, if they would have continued that trajectory of winning, which they did win under George Graham, there's a chance that Judas would have stayed, and there's a possibility they could have had a centre-back partnership of Judas and Ledley King. That literally, as much as you don't want to say it, he could have built a team. He built one of the most formidable Arsenal teams on the planet. That back five was unbelievable. And he understood building from the back. Building from the back is what every football team does.
George Graham, by the way, as a player and manager, must be one of the only people to have won as much as he has with different London clubs. As a player and a manager, he won things for Millwall, Chelsea, Spurs, and Arsenal. So he's won quite a lot in his career. He had a really good career as a player as well. It just... it kind of petered out at the end.
Yeah, very, very nearly doing the double as both player and manager. Back then, that would have been absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Unless you count Kenny Dalglish doing it in the same season. But...
Yeah. And again, what the F is Ange? So wasn't it George that moved Sol Campbell from striker to centre-back? Now, guys, here's the days. Do you remember Sol Campbell being a striker? I remember him coming through the ranks. It was like, who's this young kid? He's up front this week. Why is he at centre back? That's the equivalent of us seeing Lancashire start at centre half against Man City away, right? Can you imagine? Actually, I could with this manager, but it's I could. Sorry, I don't like him. I don't. But hey, listen. Yeah, Ronnie. So listen, it wasn't a bad team, but Ronnie, over the course of a year, this team kept finishing 10th, 11th because that's where it was in the pecking order, right? But you're right. Carr, Campbell, Ginola, Anderson. They're the standouts for me, those four. The rest for me were, okay, squad players, mediocre. Listen, Nilsson, what you did know, the likes of Nilsson, the likes of Freund, Everson, 100%. You knew you'd get the best out of them. Whether they had that quality or not, for me, was a very different story. But, guys, look, George Graham, out of 10, this man won a trophy. Spurs fans, clean your ears out, won a trophy.
Yeah.
What are we giving him out of 10?
7 out of 10, he won a trophy.
7?
7 out of 10, he won a trophy.
Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh. Isn't it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because you look at
the league form wasn't great, but you won a trophy, the averages out.
Yeah. Sure, but look at the squad he had, right? Like, what were we back in those days? You've got to remember, it wasn't now. What were we back then? We weren't sitting there going, we should be top 4.
Can we do 0.5s?
Sure, 7.5.
7.5.
All right,
7.5.
I'm upset. I wanted to give him a 9. I think anyone that wins a trophy should just be showered with gifts. I praise.
No, come on, because that's
got to take everything into account now. You got to take in the context, though. We were poor in the league, but we won a trophy.
I don't like context.
That's the equivalent of giving.
Savva hates context. Revoke that from him. He's no longer Mr. Context and Consistency. He's now Mr. Happy and Clappy. Happy Clapper.
Giving him a 9 out of 10. Giving him a 9 out of 10, though, that's like giving a player a 9 out of 10 just because they scored.
Right. So I don't
agree with that.
want to see a single manager then next on this list get more than 7.5. If that's how we're going to do this, don't you dare be putting any manager that has not won a trophy above 7.5. You've set the bar for yourselves.
No, I haven't. I've
yes, you have.
I said it's like giving a player 9 out of 10 for scoring a goal. I don't agree with it.
Can't we give him at least an 8?
No.
Like, I would agree with that. I will agree with that. I will agree. I will agree with it. I will agree with putting him as an 8.
All right. Kuva, we're going to leave it as it is. When we come to a few managers later who I know you really like, I'm going to debate you for fun. All right? That's what we're here to do. All right? So, after George had left, after behind enemy lines Arsenal had left, Spurs did a Spurs. Spurs went into full PR mode. What can we do? Fans weren't happy. Arsenal manager George Graham has left Spurs. I know what we're going to do. You know what we're going to do. We went for the man. He's not a myth. Absolute legend. We went for this guy. We went for Sir Glenn Hoddle. We went for the God to come in. Now, Glenn Hoddle at Tottenham Hotspur came in 2001 and left in 2003. In his time at Spurs, if I was to tell you he had a worse points per game ratio as Jacques Santini, you'd kill me. But it's true. 901 days Glenn had, 102 games and a 1.35 points per game ratio. And during his tenure, I'm just having a look here. Sorry, Glenn Hoddle, what was he? 01203. During his tenure, Tottenham were, again, the 9th/10th place. Guys, Glenn Hoddle, this is a difficult one because as a player, the greatest that's ever played for our club, I would say. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Greaves, maybe. It's Hoddle, it's Hoddle or Greaves. Those are the two.
Greatest in my lifetime, anyway.
Sure. As a manager,
terrible.
Guys, talk to me. He'd been England manager by this point. He'd had the whole Yeah, that is right, isn't it? In the event of orders, he'd had the whole
Beckham thing,
the something in a past life thing, that he'd had all that. He's now at Spurs. What were we expecting?
Unfortunately, it's a 4.5 out of 10. It's really the first manager I can really remember, and we were shocking. We lost the 2002 Carling Cup final to Blackburn, from what I remember. I believe it was 2002 Carling Cup final. Was George Graham the manager in the cup final against Blackburn?
No, it was Hoddle, wasn't it? Hoddle did get to a final, didn't he?
It was Blackburn, wasn't it, in Cardiff?
Yeah, would have been.
Hang on, Hoddle was 01 03. Yeah, God, how the memory plays tricks.
It was 2002. We played Blackburn.
Yeah,
in the final,
we were runners up. Yeah, we are. We were.
So it was Hoddle.
What does RU mean? It's so obvious. We were runners up in the League Cup final. I believe that was that in Cardiff.
Cardiff against Blackburn.
Yeah. I was there. I just got my years have got all muddled up. It didn't go to plan, did it? It did not go to plan.
He just was not. This is the first ever year of Levy, and Levy was already stamping that he had absolutely no idea about football. He thought he could just bring in a Tottenham legend and sort of glaze over, paper over the cracks. But we were a terrible team. We were a terrible football side. And yeah, it's got to be 4.5, 5. We were dreadful. I will go to a 5, actually. I will be nice and say 5.
Kuva?
Yeah, again, the magic word came up, didn't it? Levy. I think all the managers from this point on, is severe context applied, because what would Hoddle have achieved? Yeah, what would Hoddle have achieved if he actually had got Samuel Eto'o, if he had got Fernando Morientes?
Hang on, quickly, Kuva, please help me acknowledge.
Sorry, Dingo, you're talking bollocks, mate. I love you, mate. No, just no.
Top player, Gareth Bale. Hoddle was called God for a reason, as you were, Kuva.
Sorry, that one's thrown me.
Yeah, I know. It's mad, isn't it? It's like saying Jermaine Defoe's better than Jimmy Greaves.
I wouldn't say it's mad, because Bale was fantastic for us as well. But I mean, I think that kind of shows. It's surely it's got to show a bit of age, because anybody that had seen Hoddle at the time couldn't possibly say anybody was better than him, unless it was before and it was Greaves or somebody of that ilk. Yeah, I think Hoddle. It's ifs and buts. What would we have seen more out of him if he got the players he'd wanted? I think so. Is he completely convincing at club level? No. I think Hoddle is basically a manager that looked very good when he was at England, because he could pick and choose from the best of the best we had to offer. When it came to club level, I don't know. The England team, I thought he did a good job on. No, for us, it's very disappointing, wasn't it? It was all about the name and the association with what a player he is, and it was to appease fans for that Enoch takeover. It was how do we get the fans on board very quickly? That was your man, absolutely. It was the name to pick, but it just didn't work out, did it? It was crap. I mean,
I'm demoting my 5 back to a 4.5 again.
Are we going to give Glenn Hoddle a worse mark than Christian Gross, than Livermore? No. I mean, again, I think the difficulty when rating Spurs managers is none of them, apart from 2 on this 17-person list, we can fall back to the trophy, right? So the context is always going to be around what players were bought for them, what were they bought in to do. I just felt that, again, it's another manager, wasn't given what he wanted. I'm looking at his Tottenham record, right? Of his 104 games, he won 41, drew 18, lost 45, as a 39% win record. And Kuva, to your point, you're right. All of his club ratios compared to his England ratio were really down. But again, was he ever at a club where they had the resources, where they had... It's difficult, right? It's difficult to judge him. What would he do now with this squad, for example? I don't know.
Like, he had a great talent ID. The players he wanted Levy to sign were top players, and he was getting players like Chris Perry, for example, a well over the hill. Sorry, mate, that's not true. Well over the hill, Jamie Redknapp, who was always injured. It was just, we were signing like a Milinko Asimovic. You remember Milinko Asimovic? God.
I remember Asimovic, yeah. Technically very good. Very good. Can we, sorry, what's happened in the water today? I love Gareth Bale. Let me just put that out there. Gareth Bale's been a sensational
my hero when I was growing up.
How are we suddenly getting to this stage where people are saying Bale is better than Glenn Hoddle? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Recency bias.
And Proximo, I've seen this stat flying around today. Please, these things need to stop with the it's a process crap. Anyway, back to the fun. I've
heard the one as well about a while back. Hugo Lloris is a better captain than Steve Perryman because there was a better win percentage. It's like, wow, do people really stop and think about things? But I kind of get what he's saying. If he thinks Bale's better than Hoddle, it might mean he saw him as more exciting, maybe.
Sure, but he's all round intelligent.
Glenn Hoddle was one of the greatest footballers. But Michel Platini, one of the greatest footballers of all time, said if Glenn Hoddle was playing for a European club, he would have had like hundreds of caps for them.
Oh,
Glenn Hoddle was rated by the greatest to ever play football.
I just can't put, for me, I can't put Bale anywhere near it, if I'm honest. But hey, that's just me. So Glenn Hoddle, what is the number we're giving Mr. Hoddle here? Are we going to give him lower than Francis, Ossie, and Livermore?
What was his win ratio?
39%.
What's that? Because points per game. Sorry. Christian Gross had 1.3, right? No, it was 1.
Christian. Oh, hang on, I've got loads of things here. Where are we? Glenn Hoddle had 1.35. Christian Gross, for example, had 1.27. Ardiles had 1.16. So for as bad as we think he might have been, he wasn't as bad as them.
Yeah, for me, forget about the actual win percentage itself. Just look at the win, draw, loss, and look at the numbers there. And is it roughly a third in each? If it is, you're looking at a bang average club at that point. So average club.
41 wins, 45 defeats, 18 draws. I mean, then again, these are the sort of numbers we're putting up now, isn't it? We win as many as we lose and draw less.
Actually, it's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 5.5. I think he's a manager that I could see what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think he's a manager that suffered from being so good himself. I think like a lot of the England players of that time, all like the Scholesies, the Gerrards, the Ferdinands, they all talk about when Glenn Hoddle was manager of England, he'd play in the 5-a-side games and the 11-a-side games. He'd still be the best player. And he'd do things that the England squad couldn't do with a football. And they said that he struggled because what he could do and see in his head, he didn't have the players. And they said the closest to being able to do these things was Scholesy. Now, think how good Scholes was. So I'm going to give him a 5.5, but obviously I'll go with what you guys want to go with.
I will join you with that one. I will also say 5.5. 5.5.
I'm happy to do that as well. Apply the context of Levy and then give him that benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
Levy
at Chelsea, he bought some great players for Chelsea. You can't say he didn't have didn't Hoddle buy like Marcel Desailly and players like that for Chelsea. From what I remember, he had a good talent ID.
I mean, it's big boss man. Sorry, look. When we're going to chuck in the argument of, listen, I'm not doubting what Bale did at Real Madrid, but football wasn't like that back then. big clubs like Real Madrid hardly ever came and took somebody in Hoddle's era from England and those type. Yeah. It was very rare back in those days. Yeah. So then Hoddle, for me, when I watched him play, was a genius.
Ask yourself if Bale would have won all those trophies if he had stayed at Spurs. Glenn Hoddle did stay at Spurs till his very late end of his career.
Right.
And then he went. Then he didn't go to Real Madrid after that.
He went to Monaco,
Barcelona after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely mad. I cannot believe that there are Spurs fans who put Bale above Hoddle in the pecking order. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. But hey, it is what it is. Big up to Bella, who has gifted 1 Football Heritage TV membership. Always appreciate you, Bella. One of my very few Australian fans. Thank you very much, Bella. Hope you are well. Let's have a look at who is next on the list, shall we, people? So the next person on the list is this wonderful person. This is I know for sure this is one of Kuva's favourites. Yeah. He talks about him night and day. Poster on the bedroom wall. He has a Bible with this man's name on it. It is, of course, the one, the only, Jacques Santini, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Jacques Santini, look at Kuva's face. Jacques Santini, right? Let's have a look. So if we look, Jacques Santini, he was at Tottenham for less than half a season. If we actually look at his, I don't even know if they put him on this win percentage because of, well, Jacques Santini had 14 games as manager in 97 days, a 1.36 win rate. Now, Jacques Santini lasted hardly any time at all until we replaced him with somebody else. What a shambolic time for the club. The only good thing I can remember, Kuva, tell me if I'm wrong, I believe it was when he came in that we signed Michael Carrick.
I'm too traumatized by that period to remember who we signed. I remember players like Edmund and Atuba and players like that coming in.
Yeah.
God, what an awful manager. This is, for me, this is like a footballing antichrist. It's just I've never seen us before set up as a team looking like we're playing for a 0-0. This is the feeling I got with it. It was beyond boring. It was a level so low that I contemplated not bothering to watch Spurs anymore for the first time in my life.
Yeah, turn off you Spurs.
If he hadn't have left, I would have definitely just turned my back on football at that point. Dreadful manager. Absolutely no intention of playing football whatsoever. The best thing that's happened to this club in a long time was him leaving. Yeah. It's almost like a trophy-winning year just seeing him go. Even when he started off with these 0-0s and 1-0s, and you've got pundits on the TV saying, "Oh, look, Spurs have really changed into this resilient team. Look at this clean sheets and stuff." And then we started getting pelted week in, week out as well. Nobody had belief in it. Players didn't believe in it. Fans didn't believe in it. Didn't look like the manager himself believed in it. And he just, to his credit, he resigned, didn't he, rather than being sacked? Damn right. That's the only decision he made right. Dreadful. I'm not even going to rate him. I'm going to give him a 0.
Yeah. Do you want to know some of the players that were signed that summer as well, guys? Listen to this. I've gone on to Spurs track. I must have about 94 tabs open. It's absolutely mental. Right. So here we go. Hang on. 1, 2, 3. Right. Here we go. So Spurs in that summer or that year, bear in mind, I can't remember absolutely everything, right? We lost Helder Postiga.
Oh, no.
Stephen Carmylord. Stephen Carmylord went to Newcastle.
Stephen Carmylord.
Here's a list of players we bought that summer. We bought Andy Reid and Michael Dawson from Nottingham Forest. We bought Sean Davis from Fulham, who was a good midfielder. Like, he did well for them. We bought the man, the myth, the legend is Timothy Atuba from FC Basel. We bought Michael Carrick for West Ham for €4 million. We bought Pedro Mendes from Porto. Paul Robinson from Leeds.
Paul Robinson was a good player.
We bought No Pamaro
Oh, no, Pamero.
from Nice. We bought Mido on loan. Eric Edmond from Hereveen. Callum Davenport from Coventry. Reto Ziegler from Grasshoppers. Naybet, right? Martin Fulop. Like, I mean, we bought Cherney on loan. I mean, what's that, about 15 signings that year?
Yeah.
That's like a new squad.
That's like going and spending, 20 quid on scratch cards, isn't it? You're going to get something, but...
Yeah. A lot, but there's some decent footballers in there. Pedro Mendes, Michael Carrick, Dawson, Reed. Now, obviously, some of them were younger at the time, and it wasn't that we didn't sign the Michael Carrick of Man United. We didn't sign Michael Dawson that went on to be a really good player for us and captain. Yeah. They were kids, but he just did terribly before he got the sack. So I don't think we need to say too much. What are we going to give him, guys?
1.
0.
A 1?
1.
I'm not even rating him.
Kuva,
I absolutely despise him. I despise everything about him ever being at the club.
Kuva, the small print says we must at least give a 1. All right, we must at least.
I'm out then.
Kuva's ripping up his contract. See that, Kuv? I'm going to give him a 1. I'm going to give him a 1. Short a 1. Come on, guys, a 1. Any manager.
He literally made me hate football. I can't rate him anything whatsoever.
Okay. A 1. Kuva agrees it's a 1.
No.
Kuva. A 0.5?
No.
Okay.
Flat
no.
0.
I put him 1, Ben, purely because I just feel like if his family ever saw this video, we right.
Yeah, if the Santini family are coming for your door, Savva.
Yeah.
If his parents see this video, you did a bad thing.
Oh, mate. Now, guys, this is where it gets interesting. So, every door that's shut, another door opens. And why I'm going to give Santini the 1, he brought with him and his coaching staff, head coach, the man. I love this man. I'd love him back at Spurs now.
Yeah.
Martin Jol, look at him. He looked like a bouncer. He looked like he could beat the crap out of you. He looked like he could charm the women.
He wanted to beat up Arsene Wenger.
He wanted to beat up Arsene Wenger. This is the man. I'll start with you, Ben. He came in and really steadied. Yeah. Hang on, before I get there, actually, Martin Jol was at the football club between 2004 and 2007. So he was here for 3 years. During that time, Martin Jol, let's have a look. Big Martin Jol, where are you? Martin Jol, we're going to the top of the lists now. Martin Jol had 1,081 days.
Yeah.
Lasted just under 3 years, 147 games, and a 1.26 points per game. But Ben, he picked up a shower of shite and made us proud again.
Martin Jol is someone I think is a wonderful human being. I just think he's a really, really top bloke. We've seen that from all the videos we've seen from him. And he almost got us to the Champions League, which is Levy's promised land. But he did it on... Like we talk about now how we don't spend any money. We didn't have the resources we had now then, and we were getting the best out of what we got. We played some cracking football as well. We played some great football with the likes of Michael Carrick in midfield, Jermaine Defoe and Keenan Defoe up front, Aaron Lennon down the wing. We had some really... I believe Aaron Lennon was playing for Martin Jol at that point. He signed from Leeds. We had some great footballers. I really enjoyed watching Martin Jol's football. It reminds me of when I was a kid. And we've got the Martin Jol shirt back now. That's how legendary that sort of... Well, legendary is the wrong word because didn't win anything, so he's not technically a legend.
Yeah.
But
do you know
he made us proud to be Spurs again. He made us proud to watch football and enjoy football again.
Well, this is why when a lot of people look back and say that it is a nostalgia, right? You know, when people go, "Oh, nostalgia," I don't think they realise Martin Jol picked up a club that had finished 10th, and 14th,
and took us 5th
in a mess. and went 9th, 5th. Now, at the time, 5th doesn't seem a big deal. Now, 5th is where I think we should be as a minimum. 5th for me right now is, yeah, we've got a massive stadium, loads of money. Yes.
Yeah.
Back then, though, guys, he steadied the ship to get us 9th in his first year. And then the next 2 seasons were 5th and 5th. But remember, Kuva, and I know you do remember because you've got a memory. Lasagna Gate, right? Remember, Lasagna Gate was the difference between Spurs him actually being the first manager to take us into the Champions League. Now, that came a few years later with Redknapp, but Martin Jol had assembled a nice little team, the likes of Timo Tiano, Defoe, Keane, Michael Carrick.
Big up Timo Tinio. Big up.
Timo Tiano. And then even in his first year, Kuva, even in his first full year, some of the signings he made were good players. He brought in the likes of Jermaine Jenas, who did a job. I'm not saying he was amazing, but he did a job.
I really like JJ as a footballer. I thought JJ was a great player for us.
I liked him. He brought in Tommy Huddleston. He brought in Danny Murphy. He brought in YP Lee, who did a job. He brought in Aaron Lennon. He brought in Timo Tiano, Paul Staltieri, Wayne Routledge, and then get this. He brought in Edgar Davids. Edgar Davids came in.
What a footballer he was.
I thought he really, Kuva, I'll hand over to you. I thought he really steadied it for the 3 years he was there and doesn't get talked about enough for me by Tottenham fans.
Yeah, I mean, if you go brutally honest, you talk about the actual league performances overall, you'd say it's fairly average sort of record, isn't it? But there is that word context again.
Yeah.
Where we've just come from a period of time where we look like we're going nowhere, onto Santini, where I've said it as well, I thought is the footballing antichrist, and we're at this level where I don't even want to watch our team, and I'm hating football. Jol walks through the door, jumps into that manager's seat, and it's like we're suddenly burst out from below the waves and we're able to breathe again. He brought football back to the club. You hear this phrase among most of the fans. Anybody back at that point remembers it well. Jol was loved for this. We suddenly had football worth watching, and it was moving us up the table. We were getting the signs that this could be successful doing it. And as you said, Lasagna Gate, if it wasn't for that, maybe we would have got into those Champions League spots. Yeah. That would have been a hell of an achievement in such a short space of time. The transformation of the way we played, the belief in how we played, and the actual league finishes as well. They were all positive. And then what happened? Chairman stepped in again. Rather than backing him more to push forward, we sacked the manager because it's cheaper than buying the players again.
Well, let's look. I mean, this is the moment. This was, first of all, listen, sometimes I see comments I've got to bring up. First of all, this is a terrible take. I mean, if we're going to call Lennon and Tiano bang average, they did a very good job for the team they were in. I would give my mum's dead. I would give one of my dogs away. No, I wouldn't. Sorry, they're asleep next to me. I would give my right arm to have Aaron Lennon on our right wing now.
I love Aaron Lennon.
A winger that gets the ball, beats a man. I'm giving my right arm to have an Aaron Lennon.
Gets you off your seat as well, made you excited.
Right. And then this next comment, I'm sorry. We're blinded by nostalgia. Football was different back then. The Prem is hard. I can assure you the Prem is not harder now than back in those days.
No.
Back in those days, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Arsenal, all very, very, very good teams with a lot of money. This is just not true. Look at the Prem now.
Man City wins it 6 years. No team wins it 6 years in a row back in those days.
Right, exactly. So the Prem now is easier.
Also, forget the skill level as well. Look at the limitations that are now placed upon tackling. Back then, you could plow through players. You could really hurt them. Now, tackle from beyond, you get booked. If your foot's up off the ground, you're getting sent off. Didn't have any of that back then. Go back even further. It was absolute bloodbaths when players were playing. Hoddle had to play in an era where you could just scythe down players from behind. Tackling through a player was allowed back then. What they've got now, pampered little prima donnas who can't stand up to a strong breeze. It's pathetic.
When people say it's harder now, Kuva, I'm watching football now. You're right. No one can every time a player's tackled, they go down as though they've been shot. Right? No defender takes blame for their mistakes. They just look around and go VAR because they haven't defended properly. Like, football back then was much harder, much harder. But hey, I think it's mad.
It was harder to win, but then it wasn't harder on the players. There are two very different things. It's harder on the players now because the amount they have to run, because football's so quick and the amount of games they have to play. But this is a different video. Football back then, like, if you got a tackle above the ankle, it was regular. Like, remember when Scott Parker ploughed through Mika Richards, I believe it was, Man City versus Spurs at White Hart Lane, and just Scott Parker went ploughing through him. You could hear it.
Also, look at goalkeepers. All the controversy about Vicario at the moment with players backing into and stuff. Back in the day, goalkeepers got no protection at all. They would get smashed into. It was only it's
and this is true. Daniel, you're right. The top four used to be a closed club. It's now open to anyone with some consistency. The fact that there's 4 points between third place and 13th tells me that there's not that many great teams. Yes, it's tight. Yes, there's some good teams in there, but let's be brutally honest. No one can seem to put a run of games together to actually get away.
Except for Liverpool.
Anyway,
Liverpool doing very well at the moment.
Other than, like Liverpool and City and Arsenal in the last 2 years have done very well. But then we saw the famous day in October of 2007 when all the reports started. I remember being at the stadium. All of the noises started coming round during the first half. I don't know if anyone remembers. And it was like, God, have you heard Martin Jol's been sacked? What do you mean Martin Jol's been? We're in the middle of we're playing. He's there. Look, there's Martin Jol. No, Martin Jol's been sacked. Oh, shut up, mate. You're just winding me up. And then the news at halftime was like all Sky Sports and everyone started reporting that they're hearing that this is Martin Jol's last game. That was the moment for me, guys, as you know, when I went, Daniel Levy, Enoch, see you later. Not just because of Jol, that could have been anyone. There's a way to do things. There's a way of doing things. If you don't rate Martin Jol, don't let that be a thing during a game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that must have been leaked by somebody. So anyway, look, guys, I don't want to go too deep into that. Otherwise, we'll be talking about Daniel Bloody Levy for 3 hours. Yeah. Martin Jol, as a rating for that 3 years.
I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him a 7 because he took us again. It's context, isn't it? It's context and consistency. He took us from a team that invented park the bus. People think the word park the bus was invented by, it was invented by Jose Mourinho, but it wasn't talking about his own team. It was talking about Tottenham because we wouldn't leave the halfway line under Jacques Santini. He took us from a team that couldn't play football at all to almost getting us to the Champions League.
So what are we going with?
Very little budget compared to what we have now. It's got to be a 7.
7? Kuva?
Again, this becomes that difficult one on what do you judge him on. If it's purely on success, there isn't any, is there? Yeah. But if it's
this is what happens when you give Graham a 7.5 for success.
Yeah, but I didn't though, did I?
I did. You gave him 7.5.
This is what happens when you don't even give him a 7.5. Come on, guys, I need a number so we can move on.
I'm going to go on my own terms. I'm going to give him an 8 because he rescued us from zero football.
Ben, you went with what?
I always say the same thing. Football is about how you feel about your team, and I was loving it when he was here.
Right, you've gone 8. Ben's gone 7. I'm going to stick it right in the middle at 7.5, guys, for a happy medium. Yeah, happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now, after Martin Jol, after the sacking at half time, Levy, Levy, got in a manager that at the time was very, very sought after, was winning a lot of trophies abroad in Spain. And this guy is the only other, this is madness that there's still more manager scarves. This is the only other manager since George Graham that has won a trophy at Tottenham. There it is, guys and girls. There is an actual manager with a trophy with Tottenham ribbons on, and there's Robbie Keane, and I think that looks like Yunus Kabul.
No, that's Jermaine Genius. It's Jermaine Genius.
Is that Jermaine Genius?
That's Jermaine Genius, yeah.
Okay, all right. Jermaine Genius. So there we go. Juande Ramos came in, guys, for some context. Juande Ramos came in. We won the League Cup, but in that year we finished 11th. So not his fault, but we'd gone from 5th the season before to 11th. We won the League Cup. Juande Ramos on the list of managers. Where is he? One day. Where is Juande Ramos? Where is Juande Ramos? Hang on, sorry guys, I can't find him. Juande Ramos was. Why can't I find Juande Ramos? Oh God, there he is. Right, 54 games, a 1.3 points per game ratio. Yeah. Now, before I come to you, Kuva, on this is what Juande Ramos faced in the transfer window. He just won, right? He just won the League Cup.
Yeah.
Right? And he lost. I mean, this is a lot of good players that he lost in 1 year. He lost Dimitar Berbatov, Robbie Keane, Kabul, Malbronk, Paul Robinson, Pascal Chimbonda, YP Lee, Timo Tianu, and Anthony Gardner.
I don't think Kabul didn't leave, did he? Kabul didn't leave because he was there under Redknapp.
08, 09, we got him back. Remember? Yeah. 08, 09.
Okay.
Same with Defoe. He went off and we brought him back, didn't we?
We brought him back. So Yunus Kabul was brought back. I can't remember when, but listen, he went according to Transfer Market. He went at that time, and the players that he was allowed to bring in were, again, it's all, we bought in Luka Modric, but it wasn't the Luka Modric we know now.
Right, he went to Portsmouth. He went to Portsmouth to be with Harry Redknapp.
Yeah, we bought in Giovanni Dos Santos, Gomez, Chorluka, Bostock, Fraser Campbell, Kudicini, Pavlyuchenko, Keane, and Defoe. And Keane, Defoe, and Palacios fall into that year, but weren't in the summer. They came a bit later. So, Kuva, we won a trophy. Half his team is then sold underneath him. He's another one that's come out and said, well, I wanted this, and this. Didn't get it. And then we famously started the next season with 2 points from 8 games. Talk to me about it.
Winning a trophy. Loved that. Remember the game very well. I thought we were magnificent in that game. The centre-back pairing. Ledley and Woodgate. That was the foundation. Hit them and Paul Robinson. Foundation for our win in that game. Brilliant stuff. Really enjoyed that, especially since it's against Chelsea, who doesn't love a good win against Chelsea.
And that was Chelsea a good Chelsea side as well. They had some great players in that team.
They put us under tremendous pressure and we held up to it as well. Great stuff. But then it's back to the old Levy influence again, isn't it? Massive clear out. Players not coming in that should have come in. And
2
I think
points
there's a little bit more to it with the case of Ramos, because he had a kind of style of management that was very different to what we're used to in this country. Same as Wenger had a sort of revolution at Arsenal. Ramos was potentially going to do that for us, but we didn't seem to buy into it. All this, the new, the dietary needs, the training methods and things like that. And if the players aren't buying into it, you're not going to succeed. If you're not going to succeed under those circumstances and you don't get in the quality players you want, you're doomed. So he was up against it, but I mean, he did win us a trophy.
He did. And, I think it was a real shame because some of the players he brought in were good, but they were going to come good. They weren't bought. Again, it's the same old particular. It's that this is why when people tell me what we're doing now is a process and a project, this is no different, Kuva, to what we were doing back then. We were buying, for example, if we look at that, we were buying players like Modric, Dos Santos, Bostock, Campbell, hoping that they all turned out good. Now, Modric did. None of the others did. And
Yeah,
that's what
right.
we're doing now. We're buying these players and our fans are going, oh my God. But in 3 years, Gray, Bergvall, Odegaard, Yang, they're all going to be world beaters. You don't know. You just don't know. So for me, nothing's changed since those days. But that was a lot of players to lose in one go.
It was.
Terrible start to the season. I suppose he had to go because 2 points in 8 games is poor.
Yeah, you're heading in a very bad direction at that point, aren't you?
But he goes down as one of the 2 most successful managers for Spurs in the Premier League era for 32 years. He whether we like it or not.
Jaw dropping, isn't it? Yeah.
Him and George Graham are the only 2 managers to have won a trophy for Spurs in 32 years. That is absolutely mind-blowing.
In which case, if I'm going to give George Graham a 7 or an 8, I think I gave him an 8 in the end, didn't I? I'm going to have to do the same because that is there. At the end of the day, what you require from your club is to win something. So I've got to give him big credit for that. It was a fantastic day out when we beat Chelsea.
Yeah.
I do not forget that match. It was great times.
Yeah.
All the wheels fell off at the end, but they always do with managers at this club, don't they?
So what we given him then? I mean, again, such a mixed year. Trophy, worst start to a Premier League season ever. Like Jekyll and Hyde. I know I talk about it a lot and I talk about consistency. This guy is Spurs, isn't he? He fits into the Hall of Fame because he sums up Spurs in 1 year.
Yeah.
What are we giving him?
We got to go by. He's got to get a 7 just for that day out alone. Forget the rest of it. He got a 7. He gets a 7 just for that day out. It's a great day out.
The reason I put George Graham slightly ahead is because George Graham changed the culture of the team into one that looked like they were going to win cups from then on. Whereas you didn't get that with Ramos.
Ramos didn't get a chance to, did he?
Much shorter time frame.
So
I'm going with 7.
I'm going to give him a 7.
Right. Cool. Sweep across the board. Now comes my personal favourite Spurs manager of the Premier League era. Personally, all right? I'm not asking anyone to agree with me. When we're talking about a man who came in and took over a shit show, this guy came in, took over Spurs, bottom of the table, no wins in 8 games, 2 points from 8. People had started talking about relegation, right? Because 2 points from 8 is shocking. This guy came in, and when we talk about completely changing a football club, I thought this guy's done it more than anyone. We'll talk about Poch later. This guy, for me, did more than any of those managers we mentioned. My opinion. And it was, of course, Harry Redknapp.
Love him.
Harry Redknapp came in, and let's have a look at his tenure, shall we? So Harry came in, and we'll go right to the top of the charts. Harry Redknapp, 1,327 days. So that's 4 years in charge of Tottenham. 4 years in charge of Tottenham. 198 games. He had a points per game of 1.73. And for me, just came in. His first signings, Defoe, Palacios, Keane. Like, he just came in, made it tight, made us hard to beat. Then in the next window, he's bringing in seasoned pros. I talk about it a lot. He's bringing in Peter Crouch. He brought back Yunus Kabul, Sebastian Bassong. He's the manager that brought in Carl Walker as well. He brought in Carl Walker. He brought in people like Nico Kranjčar. Gudjonsson came in on loan, right? This man, for me, I thought was superb. And we've got to say, yes, he didn't win anything. But he's the guy that took us from nearly men to Champions League. And I thought he broke into that top 4 brilliant. I love him. I thought the football was great, Ben. I thought the way we attacked. I thought we had a good blend of defending as well. He does exactly what Ange doesn't do. He's got men in midfield. He got the likes of Palacios in midfield. Scotty Parker came in during his Sandro. He got that blend of attacking football, wide men that actually wanted to beat a man. He brought in Van der Vaart. I loved everything about his tenure.
Best football I've ever seen play in Tottenham.
I agree.
We've said this on the stream. Ange football is not fit to lace Harry Redknapp's football's boots. It's nowhere near it. Entertaining, defensively solid. Went good away from home as well. Remember that AC Milan going to AC Milan in the Champions League with some top footballers in that team and beating them 1-0. Clean sheet at the San Siro with players like Gattuso and Ibrahimovic and some quality footballers in that team. Going and beating one of the best Inter sides. Of course, Rafael Benitez was a terrible manager for Inter, but they had players like Schneider and Maicon, and they had some quality footballers in that team. Fantastic manager. Manager.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know? All right, just really, really quickly. This was the team that Redknapp beat in the San Siro. No, this isn't AC Milan now with people like Emerson Royal. Listen to this. They had Nesta, Thiago Silva, Yepes, Gattuso, Seedorf, Flamini, Antonini, Ibrahimovic, Robinho, and Abate.
Yeah.
He went there with Gomez, Gallas, Dawson, Chorluka, Akoto.
Yeah.
Lennon, Van der Vaart, Palacios, Sandro, Pienaar, Crouch.
Yeah.
Right? And we beat them 1-0 there. We battered the life out of Inter Milan. Kuva, this man, I loved him. I'll take him back now. I'll take him now. I love him.
Again, there's context of what's happened, isn't there? We saw the wheels fall off with Ramos, looking at a terrible team at the bottom of the table. In sweeps Redknapp, who, let's face it, there were a lot of doubts about him taking over. People think he wasn't a big enough name for the club. Yep. But he came in, and it's all to do with personality. It's to do with that sort of enthusiastic love for football. He brings that, same as Jol did for us. Redknapp did extra. He was the step further than Jol was in a lot of ways, because he took us from the bottom of the table up to knocking on the door of those top places again. And there was a belief, and it swept over the club. It was infectious. The football was great to watch. It was fun times. We started beating big teams, and we had some tremendous performances. We had some skills, some flair, some talent, and a manager that was all about that. He was allowing players to go out and express themselves. But like you said, he also appreciated you needed the balance. You need your Sandros in there. You need your Scotty Parkers in there. But then you throw in your Van der Vaarts, your Bales, and your all those players of that sort of ilk to go with it. And it was fun times. And again, it comes back to, what do I really need from my club above all else? Is I've just got to believe in them and enjoy myself, have fun with it. If we win things, I'm not happy if it's just grinding out a win. I've got to see entertainment. I've got to see flair. I've got to see style. I'm a Jimmy White fan. I wasn't a Steve Davis fan. It's you've got to have something. Redknapp had that. There was that bubbling effervescence about him, and it just loved it. Loved every minute. But you also got to remember as well the entire timeline, haven't you? And towards the end, when those rumours came up about the England job, he kind of took his eye off the ball a bit. We know that. Sure. And you know, there's those moments in football that you wish never happened. That's one of them, because I agree. It spoilt the rest of it, and it was so much fun. Loved it.
Let's add some more context as well to this. I love a bit of context, Kuva. I see people in the chat saying not better than Poch, and obviously we can have that conversation when we get to Poch. But for me, Poch didn't take over a club that were bottom. Poch took over a club that by then that had finished in the top 4 a couple of times. Redknapp took a team that were bottom, that had been doing really poorly league-wise. Like, let's have a look, just so that it doesn't look like I'm making this up. Spurs had finished 11th the season before. He picked us up bottom after 8 games. In his 4 full seasons at Spurs, he finished 8th. But bearing in mind, he was bottom when he took over. Yeah. Right? He finished 8th. In his very next season, 4th. His very next season, 5th. And his very next season, 4th. So this man took a team that were bottom, hadn't been in the top half of the Premier League, and got them 2 4th place finishes, right? Saved us from relegate. I don't think we're ever going to get relegated. But now let's look at a few other things he did. Never gets the credit. Luka Modric was stranded out wide on the left wing. Harry Redknapp, everyone's saying that this guy can't play centre mid. Harry Redknapp, go on, son. Go and be a player. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy Wilson Palacios to sit next to you. Wilson's not the greatest technically. Let him kick everyone. Wilson, you kick him. Give the ball to Luka, right? Gareth Bale was a left back, right? Harry Redknapp, nah, sod that. Look how good he is going forward. Go on, Gareth. Get left wing. Go and do your thing. And for me, never gets the credit for that. Yeah. Never gets enough credit for those sort of things. We saw 9-1 wins under him. We should have won a trophy. Again, we could have that conversation with everyone. Should have won a trophy.
We could have won the league that year. We could have won the league if they would have signed Carlos Tevez and Gary Cahill, is what he wanted. We would have won the league that year. But we got Louis Saha and Nelson.
The whole of Australia. Look, listen, Harry Redknapp for me, like Kuva said, I really looked forward to every kickoff.
Yeah,
we started. And I'm not saying every single game for 4 years, but we attacked teams from the off. You know, wingers that wanted to beat people, playmakers that played there was none of this inverting nonsense.
Yeah.
He never asked Van der Vaart to come and play as a holding midfielder. He was the attacking midfielder, or Nico Kranjčar was. The 2 midfielders were just midfielders that got back and got forward. Wide men beat people. The centre forward stayed up front. The fullbacks. I thought everything about his tenure until, look, Kuva, you said about the end. We could talk about that with so many. Everyone can, right? You could say, look at Wenger at the end. Look at Ferguson at the end. Yeah, they won the league, but it was starting to not be what it was. Poch, it was brilliant, and then it wasn't. But Redknapp for me, they were my favourite 4 years as a Spurs fan. I really, really enjoyed them. Just me.
Yeah, so I think we sometimes have these silly arguments in a way, isn't it? Because we're arguing about, was it better under Posh or was it better under Redknapp or Jol even? And the answer is all 3 of them were fun times. They were good. They brought something. So, I can't really say a bad word about Redknapp. I'll just, like I said, it's kind of just that little bit of taint at the end about how it fell off right at the very death. But you don't forget the good times. Yeah. You don't forget those good times. And even though we weren't winning anything, there are memorable moments where we pulled off results where you think, my God, this is the Champions League. We might have a chance of winning this,
Yeah.
As unlikely as it sounded, you got that feeling. It was
you had hope.
Fun.
Like we talk about now about believe in Ange, believe this, believe that, and it's like a pipe dream. We actually thought we could go to Real Madrid and beat Real Madrid. We thought we could go there and beat them because we did that well we were playing. And we did that because it wasn't crazy talk. We actually thought we could go and beat them with some of the players we had.
Do you want to hear something as well, guys? Right? When we talk about balance between attacking and defending, right? In Harry Redknapp's 4 seasons, listen to this. This is really impressive for me. In the first year, bearing in mind, again, he took over when we were bottom. He conceded 45 goals, right? 45. In his second season, we conceded 41. The third season, which was the first season with Champions League, we conceded 46. And his last season, we conceded 41. Now you jump to what we conceded last year with the 63. Defense we had. 61, wasn't it, last year?
61,
and 63 the year before.
61
when you look
63.
He got that balance between attack and defense. He got it right. It wasn't, we play attacking football, we're bound to concede. No, hang on. That's not the metric of if you attack. But guys, we need to get a number.
Does not mean defenseless football.
Yes, absolutely. What number are we giving him?
I'm going to break the mold and give him an 8 out of 10. I love Harry Redknapp. I love Harry Redknapp. I know I should be more thankful to George Graham because he won a trophy, but Harry Redknapp could have won a trophy if he was another manager that was handcuffed. If he wasn't handcuffed and he was allowed to buy the players, we could be talking about Tottenham winning a Premier League. That's how good we were. We could have won a Premier League.
So you're going 8. Kuva, what would you go for?
It's that old argument about do you want success or do you want exciting football to watch? Pretty football. I had the feeling we were going to do both under Redknapp, just as you did, Sav. And that very feeling of I could not wait for match days to arrive quick enough. It was brilliant football to watch. Totally enjoyed myself. And that's what it's all about. Having a little bit of belief and enjoying what you're watching. For me, he's a 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 because he didn't win anything. If he'd won something, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, so you've gone with a 9.
I've gone with an 8.
Ben's gone with an 8. I loved him. I'll stick it in the middle, guys. 8.5. To be fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought it was brilliant. Again, as well, like this manager now, I don't identify with. I don't watch his press conferences and think that's my manager. I think he waffles. I don't get on board with him. When I watched Redknapp, I loved it. He had that kind of irritable, oh God, the press, but also very funny with them. The hanging out the car window for transfer deadline day.
Oh, it was magic.
I loved him.
I remember for anyone that lives in Chigwell, I met Harry Redknapp down Brook Parade in Chigwell, and it was just Harry Redknapp. He had a mug of tea from the local. There was a sandwich shop called Chris Trucks, which was around this area. I saw him in there. He had a mug of tea in one hand. He had a bacon sarnie with red sauce in the other hand. He was a proper bloke. That's what you want your football manager to be. To go up to your football manager and just start, I love you, mate. I love you, mate. But it was great. He was someone you can get on board with.
I agree. I looked at him and went, I'm happy that man's in charge of my club. The revenue maker, we're saying he's nowhere near Poch level. I mean, we'll look at it. We'll look at it when we get there. We'll look at it. Proximo, and I know you don't understand context. That's why Ramos, let's be fair, without the trophy, Ramos would have been about a 4. So Ramos got bumped up considerably for the trophy. But what Redknapp did for the football club, for our history, taking us into the Champions League for the first time, 4 very stable finishes in 2. Let's be fair. The only reason he didn't get Champions League twice was because of bloody Chelsea winning the Champions League against Bayern Munich. So again, Proximo, context, history. You've got to learn. I know you followed Ange here from wherever he was before, but you've got it. There's a lot of context behind this football club. Moving on. The next manager after that, Harry Redknapp, was a really interesting one to talk about, guys. And it is AVB. It is AVB. Now, this is a really interesting one because on the face of it, not just a good-looking Portuguese chap, but on the face of it, he gets talked about like he did a dreadful job. And when you look at the facts, he really didn't. He really didn't do a bad job on all metrics. So this is, I'll ask you guys in a second, but when we look at his time at Spurs, where are we? Oh, there we go. When we look at Andre Villas-Boas, he's our 3rd highest ever points per game manager in the history of Tottenham Hotspur. He had 531 days in charge, 80 matches, 1.91 points per game. That dwarfs.
Who are the 2 managers that are above him? Who are the 2 managers above him? Keith Birkinshaw and
well, no, Keith Birkinshaw isn't.
Not
Peter McWilliam is.
Yeah.
Right. And the top one, I think, is a bit of a travesty because it's based off of one game. And it's David Pleat.
Bring up David Pleat.
God, David Pleat.
Guy. Bring up.
But so other than, I'm not going to pretend I know Peter McWilliam from 1938, but Andre Villas-Boas in the last 90 years has the highest points per game ratio of any Spurs manager. Just some context there, because we could talk about whatever we're going to talk about, but we can't change facts. We can't change those facts. Kuva, AVB.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I gave it a big build-up. Kuva.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed. I really wasn't. I know some fans loved him, and pull out those stats. It sounds good on paper, but when you watch it, did you really think, "Oh, we're fantastic. We're definitely winning things here"? No,
it was Gareth Bale FC, wasn't it, Coos?
Yeah, it was a case of he could build a very robotic type team that was going to get a few points. Professional, but not very good when they played the biggest teams in the world. We got turned over. Massive defeats against the likes of Liverpool and City. Absolute hammerings. The only thing we had at the time that was really good was we had Gareth Bale.
And we had
Gareth Bale got him out of a lot of trouble, single-handedly winning points in a lot of those games. We had a few good results, for sure. But for me, he's just he's not an amazing manager. He's all right. It's a filler until he finds somebody fun again.
Can I give you just a tiny bit more information? Just again, I'm just trying to put some context in here. Andre Villas-Boas, in his 80 games as Spurs manager, lost 16, won 6, right? Ange Postecoglou, in 58 games as Spurs manager, has already lost 19. In 22 games less, he's already lost 3 games more. Now, listen, I'm not sitting there saying, I'm not going to sit here and defend AVB to the hill. But again, AVB only had a year and a half. So the same, he's basically had, only had just over a year and a half, right? I'm not saying the football was great, but he's another manager, Kuva, that when he left was saying, I was promised this player and that player. I didn't get them. That's who I was told I was going to get. I didn't get them. You can't argue, Ben, with his, he didn't lose many.
He was signing good players as well. He did have a good talent ID, bringing in players like Eriksson, Vertonghen, and the players he did want. He wanted Jaume Moutinho, who was a quality footballer for many, many years. He wanted Hulk. He wanted Hulk, players like Hulk. He wanted those players, and he won a Europa League at Porto, and he's now their president. He was he actually won something. I know we don't know what a trophy is, but it's another one where Levy stepped in the way, and it all went to crap. And it's a real shame, but the football was dreadful. The football was dreadful for a lot of it. I think Gareth Bale was the one that makes those stats look really good. In context, I think Gareth Bale was a genius. That year where AVB had Gareth Bale, and he was just every single week he was getting a 30-yard screamer, or he was awesome. He was awesome. So it's a really weird one.
I think as well, he's one of those managers. We seem to have had a few of them where they can get to the team above 75% of the table, but the 25% of teams above, nowhere near. Absolutely nowhere near. Golf in class between us and the top teams at that point. And it didn't look like it was going to close. As soon as Bale went, forget it. We're just nowhere near.
But all I'm going to say is, when people are saying things to me like, Ange is a great manager, give him time, let him build. This manager was actually doing better. Maybe not on the eye, but this manager factually was doing better. Do you know what I mean? With the players he had at his disposal, with his wins, his draws, his wins and draws were more than Ange. His defeats were less. Factually, he was doing better.
I think what makes it even more poignant then is the fact that you can put up those results for AVB and those percentages as evidence that he was doing better. But even him, with those sort of statistics, you did not feel like we were going to win anything. You absolutely didn't. Yet at the moment, we're supposed to believe. Yet at the moment, we're supposed to believe that we are going to win anything, and you haven't even got that to back it up with. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's pure hope right at the moment, which I'm all for. If you're going through bad times, embrace the hope, go with it, but don't start arguing against logic and pure fact against it. Just say, I'm just sticking my neck out and I want us to win and I hope we do. That's fine. I've got no problem with that. And cheer the team on if you want to because it makes you happy. That's cool. Just don't argue the point saying it makes logical sense to back this manager based on nothing. It's hope.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, look, we are AVB out of 10.
5.
5.5.
5.5. I think this is so harsh. I think this is so harsh. His ratios were really good for that year. I don't know how we're going to give him the same as at the moment. We're talking about giving him the same as Hoddle. I had like a 1.16 points per game ratio.
I'll bump it up to a 6 then.
I'll
give you a 6. I'll give you a 6.
6, Kuva?
I felt completely flat about both managers, so it's the same score for me.
Well, I'm gonna say I would have given it a 7, but 6. I'll meet you, Ben, at a 6 in the middle. Like
I'll meet at 6. Yeah, okay, all right.
I think it's a tad harsh. I think it's a tad harsh. This is a manager.
You do have the context to go behind it. You do have the context.
If I'm sticking to what I said about it's the way I feel about the team, I did not feel anything about that team. It was
listen, here's an interesting one. So after we got rid of him, and I believe it was in like the November or whatever it was, or the October, we then brought in Tim Sherwood. And again, another manager, I'm going to say another manager that was hated for some reason, right? Didn't actually do too bad at steadying the ship. He didn't, it was a very muddled squad. You know, it'd been put together by 4 or 5 different managers. Didn't actually do that badly. If we have a look at him during his whole time at Tottenham, played 28. He won 14 of those, drew 4 and lost 10. His points per game were, where are we? His points per game for Tim Sherwood were 1.65. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I just thought he was always facing an uphill task, guys. I didn't think it was ever going to be the solution. What do you make of Sherwood?
No, it wasn't. Just quickly. With Tim Sherwood, he was one of the best directors of football we've had in recent years. Some of the players he signed were excellent. He was given a very difficult task. And one thing you can give to Sherwood's credit, Daniel Levy was going to sell Harry Kane for £300,000.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Sherwood said, this guy's my striker. This guy's my striker. And he put him in the team. He got tunes out of players like Moussa Dembele. He made Adebayor into a decent striker. Adebayor was doing brilliantly under him. Eriksen was doing well under him. And he said it the way it was. Yes, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great watch at some times. But how many, one of the first ever times I saw Tottenham go to Man United, which I was in the stands, and we beat them. We beat them 2-1. Eriksen and Adebayor got the goals in that game. Wasn't brilliant. But he had to deal with what he had to deal with. He was taking over a mess. Another mess being left to him. But he said it the way it was. And as a director, it's a shame he isn't the director of football now because he was signing some good players. Some good. His talent ID as a footballer was very, very good.
Yeah, and he got the team.
What it is.
He got the thing is as well. I think he gets so much bad press. He got the team to a respectable 6th place finish. You know, it wasn't a great team. We didn't have a great squad. Listen, what we had was a lot of good young players underneath, which is we'll move on to Poch next, which Poch brought through over the next 2-3 years. The likes of Walker, the likes of Danny Rose. You know, but you know what he had was a squad that wasn't great, didn't have any real leaders. It didn't have Harry Kane at that time in the Harry Kane mold that we know now. He was a kid. He got us to a respectable 6th place finish, a decent points per game. And also, he's the first manager. We say Conte is the first manager that's actually called it out. No, he's not. Sherwood came out in an interview and was like, there's no leaders. There's no fight. The players that are, the players don't take accountability. I can tell them whatever I want if they're not doing that. And that was the moment where I went, yeah, you care about our club. He looked genuinely hurt in that. We all know the interview, right? After Chelsea took us apart. And I actually thought he came in and did a decent, I'm not saying give them the job. I just don't think it was bad. I don't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah, I have referenced that video so many times over the last few years because it was the truth. It was brutal. It was blunt. It was absolutely honest. And the thing about, there was also people never seem to stop to think about it. Tim Sherwood, as a player, won the Premier League. He does know, he has experience of what it takes to do that. What he had struggled with at Tottenham is he could not rely on players that also had that experience or who also know what it takes. And he was frustrated by it. If he'd got maybe characters in the team that did have that kind of winning quality about them, maybe he could have done a little bit more. I don't think he was going to be clever enough with some of the nuances of the game. Some of the greats like Mourinho and stuff. He's not up with that level, of course, but he was hamstrung by the club. He did the best he could. I think players let him down a lot, and he was honest. That interview sticks with me. It always will. Sometimes it's not about being somebody's best mate, is it? It's about dragging the what you need out of each other. It's about finding a way. It's overcoming, and you don't see that in the players. You regularly don't see it in the players. But was he the greatest manager in the world? No, I think he was underrated a bit as well. At the same time, I liked him, but he wasn't going to win us things, was he? He was just
no.
He just made us competent at times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, let's. We've got to wrap through. There's 5 more to go. Tim Sherwood, I'm just going to put a solid 6.5 for me. I thought he stemmed the flow. I think I don't know what you guys think. 6.5.
Agreed.
Yeah, 6 is all right. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go over 6. We'll go over 6. Sherwood 6. I just think he took a lot of. I think he took a lot of unfair criticism of things that weren't his fault, if you know what I mean. I think he, bearing in mind, this is a manager that never had a transfer window, right? Yeah. So this was a manager doing it without a single player that was his. Now let's look at the next manager. We're going to rattle through these, by the way. Not rattle, but we've got 5 managers left and about half an hour to do it. Now comes a lot of people's favourite.
Yeah,
Maurizio Pochettino. Now, Pochettino took over, guys, during Pochettino's tenure at Spurs. He has got 1,967 days, 293 games, a 1.84 points per game ratio. For me, I'll just say this: the only thing that took any shine off of Poch for me is the fact that he never, ever got over the line. This is the man that, more than any of the others, had the team, had the players in finals, multiple opportunities, just couldn't quite get over the line. But, I mean, other than the last year, I thought he'd done a fantastic job for Tottenham Hotspur.
Absolutely. Some of the best football we played. Second best football manager I've seen in my lifetime. That's for certain. He brought in some great footballers. I mean, we're talking about talent ID again, and knowing the difference between not only going gun-ho, like bringing in players like Victor Wanyama, Toby Alderweireld, getting the best out of Kyle Walker and Danny Rose, those fullbacks. That was a brilliant first 11. And again, it's what would be. We can talk about Poch getting over the line. But look at the help he got. Look at the help he got. And he wanted no signings for 2 windows, basically. Getting players like Clinton NG, for God's sake, and George, Kevin and Kudu. Some awful footballers. the best first 11 that we've ever seen, probably in the Premier League era, but one of the worst squads. The moment Moussa Dembele or Wanyama got, it was Eric Dyer and Ryan Mason and Nabil Bentaleb and Lewis Holtby, for God's sake, Vlad Kirikesh, Federico Fazio, some awful players. It's a real shame. He didn't have the squad. He did not have that squad depth to get us over the line. Where in the final of some of the finals, when Chelsea were putting on Eden Hazards and players of that ilk, we were putting on just dross. Dross.
But I'm going to caveat this and say that there are a lot of reports, and people have substantiated them, that he did turn down squad players as well. He turned down the likes of Yuri Tielemans being part of his squad. Yeah. So, listen, I'm never going to give credit to Daniel Levy in that, but apparently, from what I've heard from people who work within the game, is that Pochettino was always wanted a small squad, and he was apparently he talked very much to his 11, didn't really talk to anyone else, and apparently that's the way he liked it at all the clubs he's been at. Now, I don't know. Listen, he did a brilliant job. For me, though, when you are in semis and you're in finals, now for me, all of the which player's been bought, how much we hate the chairman, a lot of that shit for me goes out the window. You're there. This is a one-off game. For me, I just don't think he was quite tactically good enough in those final moments to mix it up and get it over the line. I'm not knocking him. Very good time at Spurs. But things like that Liverpool final, he had a long time after that penalty to change something, do something, and he didn't. Semi-finals, the other final he had, I just felt it was a little bit stagnant in those moments. And moments are the difference between greatness and good for me. Sorry, Kuva, go on, mate.
Yeah, for me, he's one of the greatest what-if managers in my lifetime. As you said, when we got to those big moments, a Champions League final, you'd go 1-0 down, and you look at the bench, you think, well, we've got Mora to bring on. That's it. What if we had spent the extra, gone that little bit extra, just get a couple more players in? Could have been an entirely different story, but you can say that with some of the other managers too. For me, the demise of Pochettino was absolutely heartbreaking. That no transfer coming in for all that time, all those windows when it's suicide not to keep introducing fresh blood to the team. That's suicide to any sports team. You've got to keep playing the club with new players. So the downfall was terrible, but I am always going to remember those good years. Yeah, we very, very nearly did something. Now, people will, right? Yeah, you can say, "Oh, we didn't actually get over the line, so therefore that's a bad point." You could also look at the positive and say, "We got so damn near, and if we'd just pushed that little bit harder, we would have."
Agreed.
That's the way I remember him. And also, right when we started as well, he had to basically decimate a team, a dressing room where big characters were in there with being a disruptive influence. He had to shake it up. He had to get rid of like the Capoos, the Adebayors, and then I remember that season where we had to rely on Bentaleb and Mason in our midfield to get top 5. And I don't forget seasons like that. Bentaleb and Mason as our central midfield to get us into a 5th place finish. That's shocking when you look back on it. We shouldn't have been in that kind of position, but it showed the state of mentality of the club that Poch had more faith in them to do it than some of the bigger names. I thought he was fantastic, and he remains the only manager in my lifetime where I remember going into a match and thinking, my God, we could actually win the league this season. I've never.
I never quite thought that. I never quite thought that.
It was when we won 4-0 away at Stoke one weekday evening, and we're chasing Leicester, and I just thought, you know what, it could actually happen. It could happen.
He brought back feel good.
That era when usually we'd go to a team like Stoke and we'd lose, but we went to a team like Stoke and we would win, and we wouldn't just win by like a goal. Like we would win emphatically.
Mate, absolutely agree. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. My thing is though, and again, it's that difference between great and good. It's the difference between great and good. Things like, for me, I think one of the poorest decisions he made in his time at Spurs, the 3 or 4 biggest decisions he made, he got wrong in the biggest games. That was the problem for me. That's the difference between what a Jose does and what a Poch does. And what I mean by that is in that semi-final against, I always get this confused, in the first semi-final against Man United in the FA Cup, I believe it was, when he dropped Walker and Lloris. And you're thinking, no, mate, now is not the time to rotate. You got this is Man United FA Cup semi-final. I didn't get it. Then the next year, it was playing Son at wing back, and it's like, no, mate, this isn't the time to experiment. This is not the time to do that. The North London derby, when he dropped Toby Alderweireld and put in Juan Foyth, and then I believe Aubameyang and co went on and scored 4 goals. And then the big one for me, I know this always gets played about Lucas Moura versus Harry Kane. It wasn't that for me. It was just about not getting Lucas Moura in the team. Now, there is such a thing, as you guys know in sport, confidence, right? This isn't me sitting here and revising that Lucas Moura was the greatest footballer I've ever seen, but the guy scored a hat-trick in the semi-final. Let's be brutally honest. Spurs was shit against Ajax over 2 legs. Let's be brutally honest. Right? We were really poor. We got through because of Lucas Moura, what anyone says. You get to the final, Moura must be buzzing. Moura must be like, don't worry about what's going on in the league. I'm buzzing. I've just scored a hat-trick. I want to play in this final. That decision not to play him, it didn't have to be him for Kane, by the way, but the decision not to play him, I thought goes down as one of the worst management decisions I've seen. Not as Spurs, one of the worst management decisions I've seen. And managers, for me, live and die by those big decisions. And I thought he got it completely wrong.
He ruined Lucas Moura's career. Lucas Moura was not the same footballer after that. He destroyed his career.
But surely you would go to him surely you'd go to him before the final. I don't know how many it was. I remember there was weeks and weeks before the final. Do you remember? Yeah. There was like a massive gap at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I would have gone to him and said, Lucas, get ready in 3 weeks. What you did against Ajax,
do it again.
Go and do that again for me against Liverpool. I would have hyped this guy up to the point where he is living it, breathing it, believing. I would have been telling him, right now, you're the best player in the world. Right now, you are our main man.
This is your final.
This is your final. We're here because of you. Like, you didn't have to do it in front of everyone. We're here because of you. Go out. And then to not play him was, for me, one of the worst decisions I think I've ever seen. And for me, that's why, for those big moments, are the difference between when we're about to rate, why people are going a 10 for Poch. You can't be a 10 when you keep getting those big moments wrong. You can't.
No.
You can't. Sorry. So maybe I'm harsh, maybe I'm critical, but right now I think we should be sitting here saying Poch won us a Champions League and a League Cup at least and an FA Cup. No. I think we should be sitting here talking about a manager that won multiple trophies, but we're not. And I don't know. I don't know if that's harsh, guys, but that put me off Poch. That one decision in the final made me go, "You're not a winner." Sorry, it did. I don't think he's a winner.
It's whether Levy went to him and said, "You've got to play Harry Kane because he's our star." And in that moment, Harry Kane should have been brought off the bench. He should have been brought off the bench when Liverpool players were tired. Because I was there that day. That day. It was 35 degrees at 8 o'clock in the evening. It was excruciatingly hot. It was excruciatingly hot that evening. So you play like this is where Lucas Moura's from Brazil. It's always that hot. It's always that hot. He's going to be used to those conditions because he's Brazilian. He's got a bit of pace. He's got a low center of gravity. He's light on his feet. He was tailor-made for that game, especially.
Thanks, other guy.
Yeah.
The opinion of the other guy brought to you.
That's me. That game was built for him. Especially even if we did go 1-0 down. Liverpool playing 10 men behind the ball for the majority of that game because that's all they needed to in that heat. Lucas Moura's tailor-made for playing against a low block. Quick, low centre of gravity, good on both feet. That was the game to play Lucas Moura, and he bottled it.
But the thing is, for me, I know the debate is always he should have played in front of Kane. For me, a top manager, if you really want to play Kane, find a place for Lucas Moura.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not wrong, didn't Winks and Ericsson both start that game who had both been injured
Winks was our best player on the pitch that day, Savva.
No,
Winks
I know,
was the best player on the pitch.
3 of them had just come back from injury.
Yeah.
You got Lucas Moura fully fit, ready to go. I believe he also didn't he score a hat-trick against Huddersfield towards the end of that season as well?
Yes.
Like I just thought it was bad. But listen, I'm going to ask for, and by the way, sorry, just one comment I've really got to see. This one I can't, when we say got rid of Walker, I doubt very highly that Pochettino wanted to lose Kyle Walker to Man City.
Yeah.
This is rewriting history. Guys, out of 10, Pochettino.
7.75. I'm not putting him as high as Harry Redknapp, but we had some great times under Pochettino. And it was.
I'm going 8.
Champions League final. I felt like he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't.
Yeah.
I agree. Lucas Moura should have featured somehow in the team. But would that have mean we definitely would have won? No, I don't think so. I think we were destined to lose that. I'm not going to argue the point. Though.
We're talking. They had again. Oh, you got that player you love so much, Kuva. Why do you love him so much? And Virgil van Dijk. Why do you love him so much?
Yeah.
You should praise our players.
Would we be happy with that?
Yeah. End of the day, I'm gonna make the direct comparison with Harry Redknapp.
Agreed.
In that I utterly enjoyed the style of football we were playing. I thought I had a belief that we could win something, but we didn't get over the line. So he can't be a 10 out of 10. And Poch had more time to do it in more competitions as well, really, because we had a stronger side. So he should have won at least a couple of trophies, shouldn't he? And didn't. Got to take points off for that. Hey, I'm actually going to go 8.5 below Redknapp for that.
So Redknapp's at 8.5. I think I've just put Redknapp in. Poch in at 8.5 as well. I think both of them, as well as Jol, equally had really important parts of that journey. Yeah. They had really important parts of that kind of 12, 13 years between them. So Jol in 04 through to Poch in 19, that 15 years, those 3 for me, Jol started it. Redknapp really, really took it on, and then Poch took it on further. But again, context to what they all took over.
You know what he's managed this stream, Savva? Just talking about the Redknapp era reminded me just how much fun I was having back then. Yeah. And it's made me elevate him above Pochettino. And Pochettino. I used to say Pochettino, best manager I've seen in Premiership era. But is it? Did I have more fun then? No, I believe we were going to win the league, but overall, Redknapp was just fun every game.
Yeah.
Revenue maker. They're both on 8.5. Again, it's all context. This is context. Harry Redknapp didn't pick up the same club that Poch picked up. We could do that, right? You could turn around and say Harry Redknapp never had a Harry Kane and Poch inherited him, like Poch coached him. There's all these different things we can look at. But for me, both of them, my preference was Redknapp. But Poch, for me, those 2 are the best 2. Whatever way we look at it, they've been the best 2 for me. But look, I want to do this in the next 15 minutes, guys. I want to get the next 4. We've got 4 to go. I want to get them out of the way.
Bish, bash, bosh.
Bish, bash, bosh. After Poch, hang on, where's Scott? It's got to be. Is this another stream where Kuva is going on about bums like Hoddle, Gaza, King, Kane and Greaves? Yeah, those pub players. Guys, Alex, he wasn't great because he had great coach. Listen, Harry Redknapp's been a great. Come on. This guy, Jose. Now, after sacking Poch, and I think he had to at that stage. I think that like you said with Harry, I think these sort of things came to an end. Levy had to pull a rabbit out his hat. Had to, because he just sacked a fan's favourite by hook or crook. So he goes out and gets one of the most decorated managers of all time. Yeah. Brilliant. Love it. We all know the rest. We all knew he wouldn't be backed. But Jose came in was probably the most difficult job of his career, guys. He came into a team that was slowly but surely falling apart. Like, we'd lost Walker. Dembele had just been sold to China. China? Yeah. Vertonghen and Alderweireld were getting old. Danny Rose wasn't quite what he was and was having a few problems.
Delhi was gone. Delhi
had started to go down a bit. It had all unraveled. Jose came in right in the middle of this, and everyone went, "Go on, then win a league."
Signing players like Joe Rodon instead of Skriniar.
Well, exactly. In Jose's time at Spurs, again, we talk about how bad he did. He's in the top 5. He's in the top 5 in terms of points per games for any manager over 50 games. He's got 516 days, 86 games, and a 1.77 points per game ratio. He had some really, really crap players. If we look at the players that he had bought for him, he came in at what? He had, where are we? There we go. These are the players. He had Reguilon, Lo Celso, Doherty, Rodon, Vinicius, Hart, Højbjerg, Gareth Bale, but not the Gareth Bale we know now. I actually think he did a decent job. Tough circumstances, got to a final, and was facing the impossible task of taking over a team that was coming to its end. What do you make of it, guys? Jose, just for 2 minutes.
I had a really strange relationship with my opinion on Jose, because I didn't want him as a manager. Never did. Never wanted Conte either. Not my style of manager. But he's a 10 out of 10 manager when it comes to success, isn't he? So he comes over to a club that's being a 4 out of 10 at best. And what's the job he's got to do? Win something? He got us to a final. He should have been given a crack at that. That's one of the most criminal things Levy's done, was sacking him before that final.
He would have won that final. He would have won that final. He would have won it.
But back to Jose as himself as a manager, can't fault what he does. He does what he does. He upsets teams. He grinds out results. He will dirty his way to a trophy if he needs to. He doesn't care. It's all about the winning. We had that and wasted that opportunity at this club. Even if I didn't like the bloke, he could have won us something if we'd backed him in the way he should have been backed, with quality, not just throwing in 7 or 8 crappy players. But bringing in 2 great players and then another 2 great players. Same with Conte. So how do you rate him? I think fantastic manager, had a really bad time at the club, and he wasn't back properly. So how do I rate that? I'm going to give him an 8 because he actually did the job he was supposed to do. He got us to that final. That's on Levy that he didn't have the chance to win that something. If he'd won something, he's up there with the winners at the club again, isn't he? Yeah. So he has to then go up in rating. So I felt sorry for him. And the funny thing is, as the results got worse and the doubts over him got bigger and bigger, and people started turning against him, I actually, as a person, I started liking him more and more. I saw those little things he was doing, those personal touches with players, and as a human being, I really started to like the bloke. So it actually felt a little bit bad when he went. For not the reasons I was expecting. But there we go. That's the history of the club.
Let's add just quickly, because I don't want to go on too long. Let's add some quick stats and facts around Jose. And first of all, big up Pete. I completely agree. What I love about Jose was he would try. If we're losing 2-0 in a game like Ipswich, he's not chucking the same 11 out there and going, go and do the same thing again. He's going, right, 4-3-3. Let's go to a 4-2-3-1. Let's go to a 4-4-2. Let's go to 3 at the back. He's trying. He's managing. He's being flexible. Now, did he have the players to be that flexible? I'm not sure. But big up, Pete. Really appreciate you, buddy.
He's another one of those managers like Ferguson. He wouldn't be scared of taking a player off in the first half.
Right. And he did. He did. If you remember when we were 2-0 down to whoever. Yeah. And right, here's some interesting facts. Again, when we talk about our great Anges, right? Listen to Jose Mourinho. In his 86 games as manager, he lost 23. So Ange is already on 19 after 58, by the way. So in nearly, 28 games more? Is that good maths? Yeah. In 28 games more, Jose is going to have lost less unless Spurs don't lose anymore, right? He drew too many. He drew 19 and won 44 of them. He scored a lot of goals for a manager that everyone says is negative. He scored a hell of a lot of goals as Tottenham manager, right? He averaged 2 goals exactly per game. Yeah. And his defensive record, again, much better than Ange Postecoglou with Joe Rodon, Dyer, Sanchez, Sessegnon, Reguilon, Doherty. So again, Aurier, when people are saying, oh, he's crap, look at the defenders he had, and his defense was better than Ange's. Let that sink in. That's what you get when you get a top manager. Now, just quickly, Ben, wrap it off for us because I want to wrap this up with Jose in 1 minute. What are you going to give him? Do you think he was unfairly hated?
We would if he would have won that final. Jose Mourinho does one thing, and I think he's only lost 3 finals in his entire career. I think and most importantly, whenever we played Man City under Jose Mourinho, we always seemed to beat them. That was the start of the curse of Man City, which is now over due to this manager but.
Yeah, but by the way, listen.
I'm giving him a 7. I'm giving him a 7, but really, we should talking about him being a 9 for winning a trophy as well.
Just quickly before I go to you, Kuva, when I see this that we say that Jose had Son and Kane, it's 2 players. He had no midfield. He had no defense. Like, it's all well and good saying we've got 2 good forwards, but. I think this squad we've got now is much more balanced, and I would love to see what Jose or Conte, I'm not saying I want them as manager, but I would have liked to have seen what they did with this group of players. That's the difference. By the way, Postecoglou has still got Son. He still had Son last year scoring goals for him. Yeah. All right, we didn't have Kane, but that can't be the answer for everything. It can't always be Harry Kane. Yeah. But a 7 for you, Ben?
Yep, 7.
Kuva?
Yeah, I think I'll go with a 7 as well. But again, it's a difficult one to rate because of circumstances, isn't it?
Well, I think that I would have given a 7.5, but I'll meet you guys and go with a 7. Jose Mourinho, for the 86 games he was Spurs manager, his record was top 4. Just again for context. So he had a really poor squad. Didn't play the football people wanted him to, but still had a record of 4th over those 2 years. That's good going when you look at the squad we had, right? So for me, I think he did a lot better, and he was hamstrung from the first minute to the last because of the Chelsea connections and who he was. Guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to agree because that cup final was another what-if moment. And if I'm going to allow that with Pochettino, I've got to allow that with Jose as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Prevenu, when you said no, it wasn't Poch started that, I don't know what that means. Let me know. Listen, you've got loads of characters that you need to give some context around that. We're saying a lot of things up here. I don't know which part you're talking about. Destiny 5 said Jose has never lost a pep in a final. Guys, I reckon we can do this next one in 60 seconds. This guy.
He'll make you proud.
Nuno. Guys, for me, onto a hiding to nothing. Didn't have long enough for me to sit here and judge him in any way, shape or form. Had a really crap squad. Had Harry Kane off the back of a bit of a sulk because he wasn't allowed his move to Man City. Had 10 games. won 5, lost 5. It's basically neck and neck with what Ange is doing now, who's being called great. I think he was harshly treated. Not saying I want him as manager. For me, I'm going to give him a 6. I don't know what you can say about him, really.
Easy for me. Won 5, lost 5, scores 5. He's a nothing manager. Yeah.
Are you happy for a 6? I don't think it was the worst. I don't think it was the best. I don't think he did anything wrong.
It just doesn't matter, does it? It's irrelevant. Yeah.
Lots of people saying Nuno is better than Ange. Nuno better than Ange. Nuno awful. Minerals. When you're saying Nuno's awful, his record at Wolves was very good. He's doing a very good job at Nottingham Forest.
So far.
When we're using words like awful, why? If he's awful, is Ange awful? He's got an identical record this season. Is Ange awful?
It's some of those losses, isn't it? Like the Nuno, the loss at Palace. Oh God, that's one of the worst games of all time.
Sure, but look at the weekend. Look at Palace 2 weeks ago. Look at Galatasaray. This is, it is what it is. But listen, we're gonna add him in. We've got 2 managers to go. So we're gonna give Nuno is gonna be a 6. Now, here comes one that really sets the pulse racing. Have you guys got 10 minutes? Have we got 10? I know you.
I've got 10 minutes, yeah.
Right, we'll go to 10-2. We'll do 5 minutes on each. Starting now. The next manager, and by the way, I don't think I showed. Did I show Jose's picture?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Anyway,
did.
that's what Jose looks like, everybody. This man, Antonio Conte, dressed immaculately. I'll give him that.
Yeah, great shoes.
Guys, another one. The Nuno experiment failed for whatever reasons. He sacked him early doors. It was another Daniel Levy needs to appease the fans moment. We have a lot of them. And he went out and got Antonio Conte on an 18-month contract.
Yeah.
That, for me, Kuva, signalled that this was a pointless appointment, that they knew it wasn't long-term. Conte knew it wasn't long-term. We signed shit players for him. And listen, he's not my type of manager, Kuva. You know that, like you. He's not my type of manager. But if you're going to bring the bloke in, give him the tools he needs at least. Because the thing, people like Kuva and I can go, God, we don't like the football, but he's just won the trophy. You know what I mean? So Kuva, just quickly, Antonio Conte, was he on a hiding to nothing?
Yeah, for me, wrong. I didn't want him either. I don't like him. I don't like the style of football. But that's subjective. He just came in on a hiding to nothing. Like I said, it was a short-term contract. The fact we couldn't get him to start with tells you everything, because he had doubts about coming here in the first place, and he was proven right, because we just gave him nothing to really work with.
He wanted Bastoni. Wanted Bastoni. Got Longley. That's what you need to say about.
Yeah, and just like Jose, the longer he went on, the less I believed in the football. But I started to actually like him as a person, because
he was
honest. Did enjoy. There were passionate outbursts in the pressers, weren't there? You could see he was frustrated about what's going on. He cares. He had professional pride. You can't say that about all the players at the club. You certainly can't say that about the chairman when it comes to football.
Do you know the funny thing for me is, yes, the Bastoni thing is true, but we were never getting Bastoni. But the point was, it wasn't just
someone of that quality. That's the quality of player he wanted.
I remember people like what's his name, Alistair Gold, putting out posts saying this is the shortlist of 8 centre backs that Tottenham are after. Paratici, the way he works, he's going to look at those 8. He's going to be in contact with all of them, and then we'll pick the one we want. And then not one of those 8 centre backs was signed, and we ended up with Clement Longley on loan, and then you ended up with Jed Spence, and you ended up with Richarlison, and you ended up with was Joe Hart bought as the backup keeper at that point?
No, he was there under Mourinho. He was there under Mourinho. We had Galini under Conte.
Galini. It was just sort of like, you looked at it and went, again, I can separate my feelings. Do I rate Conte as a manager? Yes. Do I like Conte's style? No. If I'm going to bring him in, the same with Jose. You don't bring in winners and give them average footballers. You just can't do it. So for me,
Conte would love this team. If he had this team, this squad of players, we would be minimum second. I believe.
Agreed.
We wouldn't be crap away from home for the most part. And we'd play three at the back. We'd have the centre-backs we need to play three at the back because we'd have the Dragashin as the centre-back. We'd have the two players that will bring it out. We'd have the two wide wing-backs that we wanted. Perisic would be in and out of the team as sort of that left forward if we needed him to be that left forward. I think we would be very comfortably in the top four at the end of the season.
He had a 1.78 points per game ratio. And look, I know it's not all about the ratios. For me, I'm going to rate him. Bless me, I couldn't get to the mute button in time. Sorry. I'm going to rate him. I don't know if you guys agree. The exact same as Jose. For me, there was no difference in their tenures for me. They both came in, both had a remit. Jose's get to a final. Did, sacked. Conte, get back in the top four. Did, wasn't backed. For me, both had very similar by 0.1 out in terms of points per games, right? Antonio Conte, when we look at Tottenham Hotspur, again, he's another one. His lost column compared to the current manager, again, he lost exactly the same amount of games as Jose. He lost 23, 141, but drew a lot. He drew 12. Scored, again, exactly the same as Jose. Averaged 2 goals a game, but let in a few more goals than Jose. For me, I'm going 7. I think 7. I thought he did a decent job with what he had. But again, if you're not going to be backed, you're not going to be backed. That's only my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I put him in the same as Jose. It's another what if. What if we bought the players he needed to succeed? What if you gave this starting 11 to him, even without Harry Kane, and you're putting... Jose likes players like Solanke. He likes players like Lukaku who do very similar jobs.
Yeah.
People that work.
This whole that no managers only do well because of Harry Kane. Sorry, Harry Kane has never won a trophy in his career, and other clubs are winning trophies. So it can't be, but Harry... I'm not knocking him. But Conte won league titles with people like Romelu Lukaku, right? Like, you get the best out of what you've got. Kuva, happy with a 7 for Conte?
Football in terms, he did what he could, I suppose. I'm never a fan, like you said earlier, and like I said. But context, he did okay, didn't he? Got us into the top 4. That was his remit. And as people are saying in the chat as well, which I totally agree with, exposing what's going on with this club at board level. When Conte sits there, and he's absolutely correct, if you're going to build a winning team through the transfer market, you bring in 2 quality players every window, top quality players, not 6 or 7 plodders, 2 absolutely top players, and then you keep doing it. And after a few seasons, only a couple of seasons even, you've suddenly got a very good side. We don't do that. Conte could have done that for us. Mourinho could have done that for us. But then look at all the other managers. You could say the same thing. But these 2 are so high profile, and they've won so many trophies between them, that if you fail with these 2 in, you're doomed. You just forget it.
When you fail, listen, if one of them had failed, let's say we bought in both, we bought in both. If one of them had failed, you go, well, that's an anomaly. When both of them come in who win wherever they go and both fail, you go, it's Spurs. It's Spurs.
Like, especially if Conte wins Serie A with Napoli this year, which they're top of the league, only lost 2 games, then you'll start right.
Right, well, let's finish this off then. Let's finish this off. This brings us to modern day. This brings us to Ange Postecoglou. Guys, I'm going to start off by saying I've never seen a manager get so much love without just deserves. Do you know what I mean? I don't quite understand. I get it if people want to back a manager. Fine, back a manager. You can back who you want. But I just feel like the love for this manager, a lot of the talk when people are talking about him is all ifs and buts and maybes, but things that we've never seen. You know what I mean? Like Chris Cowlin has just come out and put a great big massive post on X. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it. It's just been sent to me while we're on here. Ange this and Ange that, and if Ange is given time and it's only 2 bad defeats. But these people never actually talk about the actual facts. The actual facts show that he's not doing a great job. He's not. Whatever we want to say, guys, he's not doing a great job. He's getting a lot of love. You know what I'm going to rate him, but where are you with Ange? I know we talk about it a lot and we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but why is this guy so fondly talked about?
Blind hope. Blind hope. This is me being incredibly honest, this is the most stubborn manager in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Agreed.
I have never seen a manager so stubborn. For 2 games in the last couple of weeks, this is recency bias because we're living in modern times now. Against Man City and against Aston Villa, we dropped our back 4 10-15 yards and we looked half decent hitting the team on the counter-attack.
Agreed.
Against Galatasaray, which Ange lovers are calling a dead rubber game, no game in you. That tells you they know nothing about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. They're treating European competition that way. It's a pleasure to be in Europe. Without Europe, Tottenham Hotspur are nothing. Dead rubber game against Galatasaray. He dropped half the team and was playing a suicidal high line against the quickest front line, one of the quickest front lines in Europe. And then against Ipswich, another team this year that couldn't get a win for Toffee. They come to Tottenham and they played us off the park. This wasn't a lucky win for Ipswich. They played us off the park. That is seriously disturbing. So for Ipswich to play us off the park, this wasn't a lucky win. This, for me, the time's up. I'm done with this experiment. That losing 5 games already. We're on course to lose more games than we did last season. And that was 12.
Kuva, under this manager, if we look at the league games, 48, he's played 49 league games overall. And in that time, in 49 league games, he's conceded, 61, 71. He's conceded 74 goals in 49 games. He's got only 2 managers in our Premier League history. This is true. I'm not making this up, guys. You know, I've got 59,000 pages up in front of me.
Yeah.
Only 2 managers. Who do you think they are, right? I'll tell you what, we conceded 61 goals last year under him. Just so you know, since the Premier League started, I'll let you know. In 95-96, we conceded 61, right? In 95-96, which was Gerry Francis, right? We then conceded 65 in 05-06, 70 in 2000. Sorry, I'm absolutely making that up. I'm so sorry. We conceded 62 in 03.
Yep.
We conceded 61 in 08, which was the year when Redknapp joined us but took over a team that were bottom.
Yep.
We conceded 63 under Conte and 61 under Ange. Only 2 managers have conceded less in game-for-game ratios than Ange. I don't think he can manage defensively, Kuva. I think he's a really poor defensive football manager.
Well, we don't even know who his coaches are all the time. He doesn't take coaches with him like most managers do. Yeah. So it's different all the time. We've changed them again this season. Mild improvements, you could say. But overall, you look at the results, don't you? And there's no better way of gauging results, no matter what anybody says, than the league table. It's the fairest way of looking at a snapshot of a club's progress over a long period of time. And it's not good. It was those initial 10 games. I remember it. I said to you, I'm going full Ange in. I'm going on the Ange train because I'm so sick of feeling miserable about this bloody club of ours that I just want to go happy mode. I'm going to clap everything. Ange in, it's the new Messiah. I said all of these things, meant every bit of it. I wanted to feel that way. After 10 games, brilliant. It was all going so well. Then when the wheels fell off, okay, reality check. I'm still Ange in. I believe we can do something. Let's give him a bit of time. But as we went on, it started getting worse and worse. And even when we did get the big name players back, the ones we were depending on, and I remember saying it very clearly, when those big name players come back, the Van der Vens, the Madisons, when they're back from injury, we're going to finish this season strongly. We didn't. We had some very bad results towards the end of the season. We got fifth, which is okay. You could say the manager in that respect done an okay job. Fifth isn't bad. It's the sort of result you'd expect for a club like us. Okay, no problem there. Is the football improving? No. I'm not seeing Ange ball. We're seeing some dreadful games, worse than ever. Certainly on par with some of the bad Conte ones and Mourinho ones. We get occasional good games. We get little runs where it's nice. Go that sort of win 7 out of 8 against some mediocre teams, some good teams. We get results against Villa and Man City. Whatever people say about Man City's team that was fielded, it's still Man City, isn't it? It's up to them if they want to play a weakened team. Our team was weakened too, but we did get a result. We got a thumping win against Villa. Great. Builds a tiny bit of confidence. I'll start thinking, maybe we will go in the right direction again. Then you get those crappy results and horrendous performances, and all of that is washed away instantly. Against Galatasaray, let's face it, people are actually saying, oh my God, we showed such resilience there. No, that's not resilience. That's blind luck that we didn't concede 10 goals. They had wave after wave after wave of attack where they should have scored. What happened with the team then? We bring on Bentancur and Kulusevski and get worse at half-time. After half-time, that was the worst period of football I've witnessed at this club in a very long time. We looked like we'd just come out of school, thrown a couple of jerseys down and played football that way. No organisation, just letting the team swamp all over us. And it was embarrassing. It was watched through your fingers. It was so utterly incompetent in every way. And I'm supposed to now back this manager or believe in him? I don't. He's going to have to go on a long run of wins now just to build the confidence up again. And I don't see that happening.
His points per game ratio is decent. It's 1.72. It's good over 58 games. For me, and we are going to wrap it up in the next minute, for me, the worrying thing, guys, the trend. If you look at everything, it's going downhill. Now, I actually had someone called Kangaroo Boxing message me this morning, and they said, Savva, I think it's out of order when you lump in stats over a year. That's not fair. And I'm like, it's a year. It's 12 months. No, he said, well, just look at this year. Cool. Let's look at this year. 5 Premier League defeats in 11 games, right? Now, when you look at what some of these other managers have done, right? When you look at the number of defeats that Tottenham Hotspur have had, right? Like under Poch, 7 defeats in a season, 4 defeats in a season, 6 defeats in a season. Harry Redknapp, Harry Redknapp's defeats in a season were 8, 9 and 8. This manager's got 5 already. Yet I'm being told that this manager is a brilliant manager. Just back him. Well, our fans, and we are going to wrap up. I know you've got to go to a stream, Ben, but our manager...
I've got to get lunch firstly. We're streaming late. I need to run and get a sandwich.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. When you say, look at that guy who came in yesterday. All our players are really good. You belittle them. Cool. If all our players are really good, isn't the manager doing poorly then? 5 defeats in 11. 10 defeats from our last 18. Guys, for me, I need to see something creeping up. I don't see anything getting better. That's my problem. I don't see what's getting better.
18 defeats in 39 games, isn't it?
17 defeats. Yeah. 17 defeats, 39 games. Yeah. 17 wins, 17 defeats, 5 draws. This manager can't even grind out draws when we're losing. You look at Jose's record, the number of draws, because Jose will go, we got to grind a draw out here. We might not like the football, but he's got to grind it out. You look at Ange. This man either wins spectacularly or we look awful losing. And for me, look, you all know my feelings. 5 defeats in 11 games is quite frankly an embarrassment.
Yeah.
If we're honest. But guys, give me a score to end the show. Give me a score.
I'll go on an easy one. That we've got to see something in a longer period than this. At the moment, I see nothing special whatsoever. Everything that good to go with everything bad. It's a 5 if lucky.
Yeah, I agree.
I was going to go over 6. I
Me
know that
and
sounds mad.
Kuva are Mr. Negative.
Purely for a 6.
I'm gonna go 5.5. But if he somehow wins if he somehow lasts past Christmas, because I think he's sacked by Christmas at this rate. If we continue on the trajectory we're continuing on, he's going to be sacked by Christmas. If he somehow lasts past Christmas and wins us a trophy, I'll give him an 8. But I
agree. The only reason I gave a 6 was because we're in those trophies, so it's down to him to lose them now. And he got 5th last year, which after picking up a bit of a mess, wasn't the end of the world. But for me, I thoroughly agree with Kuva. For everything good, there is something equally as bad, and people are just burying their heads in the sand. And I'm sick of this notion: just support your team. This isn't about just supporting my team. I love Spurs. I just don't rate this football manager. This football manager, we've seen Conte and Jose with worse defenses than this, conceding 25 goals less. This is, I think it's really bad. But guys, thank you so much. I've really loved that. I really have. Big up to Pete for the super chat. Really appreciate that. NSG, big up. I said, I just can't deal with another manager merry-go-round. Probably why I'm hoping a bit too much for change in the time being. Neutral until I see us drop out of either Carabao, Europa League, FA Cup. I hear you. I do hear you. But for me, a manager merry-go-round isn't a reason to keep a poor manager for me. But thank you so much for the super chat. And then just another one quickly, really, really quickly. Hi, Savva. I just saw a terrible question on another channel asking whether Leicester are a bigger club than Tottenham. I'm an Arsenal fan, but history would tell us Spurs is huge. Leicester are not a bigger football club than Tottenham Hotspur. Leicester are a more successful club in recent history than Tottenham Hotspur. That fair, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
There we go. And I think Wayne Holland, who probably in the chat will tell you that as well. Spurs in the Premier League era haven't won an FA Cup or a Premier League. We're not as successful as Leicester City, whatever we say. Yeah. Guys, girls, loved it. Love these trips down memory lane. And just before we go, we've got to, Ben. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to be on Spurs Kings TV tonight. They put their shows at something like midnight, or I think it's like 9:45. I'll be going on. They want me to debate with a few people who might be a little bit more positive than I am. Is how it's positioned. Much love. Take care. Please all go over. Ben, before you go, let me redirect. Let me
redirect. I won't be streaming for another 15 minutes, so I'm going to run and get lunch, but you can redirect.
Yeah, I'll redirect. What's it called? Hang on one second.
Coffee company, rest and relaxation.
Customization, redirect, add videos from other channels. Are you going to pop up on the card? You've not come up as a recommended. Oh, naughty algorithms. I can't find it at all. The Coffee Company. You're not coming up at all, mate. Found it. Right. Found it.
Coffee.
See you later. Thanks, Kuva. Love you. Love that show. Love you, Ben. Take care, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs, and leave me out.